Chapter 2707. The black clouds that should have dispersed shrouded the sky again. But this time, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Electric snakes surged in the clouds. The lightning was terrifying, as if it was the end of the world. Apart from a loud boom, each bolt illuminated the world. The next moment, a bolt of lightning landed on the battlefield. A huge monster's true body was instantly roasted by the lightning. Everyone on the battlefield stopped fighting in an instant. They all stared in shock at the burnt demon's true body. Then, a godlike figure descended from the sky. Zhang Tianyi. He's here. With anger and coldness. The moment Zhang Tianyi appeared, the morale and situation on both sides reversed. You! Damn it! Just then, dozens of cultivators jumped out from the walls of Jingxin Villa. They were all guests of Jingxin Villa. Before this, they'd actually been observing the situation, or rather, watching the show. They could tell that the monsters weren't here to kill. They were only here to stall for time, so they weren't worried about being caught in the crossfire. But it was different now. Zhang Tianyi was here. Most of them didn't know that Jingxin Villa belonged to Zhang Tianyi. But this didn't stop them from making the right judgment. If they still hid now, they'd be making Zhang Tianyi unhappy. Plus, if they performed well, they might catch Zhang Tianyi's attention. Then, he'd give them a small reward. Wouldn't that be great? But Chen Zhao, who was also a bystander, couldn't help but sneer. Kunlai was stupid, but he called Zhang Tianyi the right way. He was a shrewd old ghost. Right now, Zhang Tianyi looked like he couldn't restrain his anger. In reality, he'd been here for a long time. Or maybe he hadn't just been here. He'd been hiding nearby all along. Just then, Zhang Tianyi's gaze fell into the darkness. The place he was looking at was where Chen Zhao was standing. Chen Zhao and Zhang Tianyi exchanged a look as if they were very experienced. Chen Zhao didn't plan on exposing Zhang Tianyi's true treachery. Of course, Zhang Tianyi didn't plan on revealing certain truths either. For example, Kunlai's death. He was happy to accept the honor of killing Kunlai. The moment Zhang Tian appeared, those demons were scared out of their wits. Their boss, Kunlai, was nowhere to be found. Under such circumstances, their morale had already hit rock bottom. Many demons wanted to escape. A small portion of them were unable to escape. There were even more timid demons that were so frightened that they prostrated themselves on the ground and begged for mercy. Chen Zhao returned to his room. Not long after, Mo Han also returned. Boss, the Yi family was taken away by the people from Dragon Tiger Mountain. Mo Han said. It's expected. Chen Zhao shrugged. He wasn't surprised at all. What's within expectations? Just then, Zhang Tianyi's voice came from outside. Chen Zhao had no elegance at all. He slumped on the sofa and put his feet on the table. What do you think? Looks like even without me, old monster Kunlai would only be helping your Mount Longhu. You've misunderstood. Misunderstanding? Hehe. That old monster Kunlai is so weak. Among my opponents, he can barely be ranked in the top 10. You're telling me that you fought with him for more than 10 rounds and didn't manage to kill him? Who are you trying to fool? Fine, I admit it, Zhang Tianyi admitted honestly. It's not hard to kill him. So you're just fooling me. Not really. That's not it. In the first few rounds, I was only in the Shangqing state. You saw how powerful that old monster was, so I was only evenly matched with him at first. Later on, we fought a few more times. He escaped quickly. Although it wasn't difficult to win, it wasn't easy to kill him. It wasn't until recently that I found out about his plan that I started to think about it. Zhang Tianyi glanced at Chen Zhao. You didn't lose anything either. You're full of energy now and the haze on your face is gone. Looks like you've indeed removed the 9 viscera techniques. Chen Zhao suddenly grinned. Not only did I not lose anything, I even gained something. Zhang Tianyi raised an eyebrow. If Chen Zhao said he'd gained something, then he must have gotten something amazing. Thinking about it, what did old monster Kunlai have that caught Chen Zhao's attention? His pure flesh and blood? That thing was indeed very nutritious. For normal people or cultivators, just a little would cause them to turn into monsters. But for them, no matter how much there was, they would eat it for you to see. At their level, they were almost invincible. So the flesh and blood with thick demonic aura was really nothing. But what could the flesh and blood give Chen Zhao? To increase his own spiritual power? With their cultivation level, the amount of spiritual power didn't mean much. Let's compare old monster Kunlai. His spiritual power was strong enough, right? Chen Zhao still pressed him to the ground and rubbed him. Or did it increase the strength of Chen Zhao's body? Although old monster Kunlai's flesh and blood were pure, Zhang Tianyi believed it could increase Chen Zhao's strength. But the increase would definitely be very limited. Chen Zhao's body was already close to perfection. Even if old monster Kunlai gave Chen Zhao 10 portions, he probably wouldn't have any qualitative changes. So the gains Chen Zhao was talking about were definitely not Kunlai's flesh and blood. Could it be that old monster Kunlai had some other treasures that he didn't know? The more Zhang Tianyi thought about it, the more he felt like he had lost out. If he had known, he would have done it himself. Chen Zhao, do you think you can share some with me? Everyone who sees it has a share, Zhang Tianyi said shamelessly. Ha! Chen Zhao chuckled at Zhang Tianyi. Do you know what an inner world is? Zhang Tianyi's expression changed slightly. Yes, why do you ask? I got old monster Kunlai's cultivation technique, and it's for cultivating an inner world. Impossible! If old monster Kunlai cultivated an inner world, could you kill him so easily? I don't believe it. He didn't cultivate an inner world. He just modified his technique and took a shortcut. Chen Zhao shrugged. You still haven't told me what an inner world is. In fact, whether it's you or me, or even the 23rd generation Blood Mary and Bifla, the path we've taken is flawed. The small world we've cultivated is also known as the outer world, but we haven't cultivated the inner world. In fact, you don't even know about the inner world. Only our sect of Dragon Tiger Mountain has some relevant records, but they're only records, and they're not detailed enough. Cultivating the outer world allows one to see the gods and understand the mysterious world, while cultivating the inner world allows one to comprehend the heaven and earth, and even master the Great Tao. Great Path? What's that? The Great Path is what our ancestors called it. Now, people call it the natural laws. Chapter 2708. Chen Zhao planned to share the cultivation method of his inner world. Of course, it was only limited to Zhang Tianyi, Bifla, and the 23rd Blood Mary. But before that, Chen Zhao wanted to collect some interest. In other words, the method of cultivating the inner world that I have now is an isolated version, right? Zhang Tianyi's smile froze. Tell me, what do you want? The primordial bell you used last time seems to be very suitable for me. It's the method I want to cultivate, Chen Zhao said with a bright smile. Zhang Tianyi's face darkened. Fuck, he'd used that move to block Chen Zhao's attack. Now he was asking for that move. Your fleshly body is definitely harder than my primordial chaos great bell. Why do you need my primordial chaos great bell? How about I give you a few practical spells? They can directly increase your combatability and increase your strength. How about that? Zhang Tianyi was speaking the truth. Chen Zhao definitely didn't want the primordial bell to protect himself in battle. In his past battles, he'd basically won by charging head-on. Thus, the primordial bell was meaningless to Chen Zhao. His intention for the primordial bell was obvious. He wanted to find the bell's weakness and beat himself up. Zhang Tianyi could already imagine what kind of scene that would be. If you're willing to give me a few more spells, of course I'd be happy to accept. But I still want the cultivation method of the primordial bell. This condition can't be changed. Don't you have a more professional and excellent team? You can ask them to give you ideas. No, I want the primordial bell. Zhang Tianyi was very upset because Chen Zhao was still holding a grudge against him for the tie that day. This wasn't good news for him. It seemed that he had to develop a few practical skills. At least, he wouldn't be beaten up passively when facing Chen Zhao. But as the saying went, one with strength could defeat 10. In terms of combatability, powerful strength would indeed make battles easier. For example, Chen Zhao. But Zhang Tianyi's combatability wasn't displayed in battle. So, he would definitely be at a disadvantage when facing Chen Zhao head-on. Actually, Zhang Tianyi had really misunderstood Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao wasn't fighting Zhang Tianyi at all. Chen Zhao had been reflecting on himself after getting the 9 techniques of dirty arts. In the past, he had faced almost all spell attacks. Basically, I'll just stand there, and your spells will have to pass through my attributeless domain first. In the attributeless domain, 99% of the spells were worn down first. Then, he used his invulnerable body to withstand it. With Chen Zhao's physical and magic resistance, the spells couldn't even break through his defense. Most of the time this was very useful and effective. But if he were to encounter the 9 dirty spells next time, no matter how high his magic resistance was, he would directly give him a mental blow. Chen Zhao couldn't guarantee that there was only one dirty technique disciple in the world. Therefore, it was necessary to take precautions. To Chen Zhao, the primordial bell was an awesome defensive spell. At the very least, it could block his attacks. Chen Zhao felt that this was the best defensive spell in the world. In the past, Chen Zhao had seen many defensive spells that were said to be indestructible. For example, absolute isolation, holy barrier and so on. To Chen Zhao, it was only 1 or 2 punches. Only those who could withstand his attacks would have an amazing defense. To be honest, Zhang Tianyi, Bifla, and 23rd Blood Mary. If he were to face Bifla and 23rd Blood Mary, Chen Zhao was confident that he could force his way through and win. But Zhang Tianyi couldn't. Chen Zhao had no confidence at all. That day, Zhang Tianyi had only been defending. What if he fought back? Chen Zhao had always believed in one thing. When the opponent couldn't kill you, you had many ways to do so. Therefore, Chen Zhao didn't doubt that he might not be able to beat Zhang Tianyi if the battle continued. Chen Zhao couldn't break through Zhang Tianyi's defense, so Zhang Tianyi was undefeatable. Because of this, Chen Zhao wanted the primordial bell. Let me think about it. Even if it was an inner world cultivation technique, Zhang Tianyi had to consider whether Chen Zhao would slap his old face if he handed over the primordial bell. Of course, the main reason was that the primordial bell technique contained some secrets of Dragon Tiger Mountain's Celestial Masters sect. Moreover, Chen Zhao didn't plan on taking out the inner world cultivation technique immediately. At the very least, they had to discuss and research together with Bifla and Blood Mary of the 23rd generation. Zhang Tianyi left in a hurry. He needed to see the future of Dragon Tiger Mountain, the 1,000-year bloodline. Zhang Tianyi estimated that he still had a few decades to live. But he definitely wouldn't be able to live until the spiritual Qi tide arrived. If he died, Dragon Tiger Mountain's Celestial Masters sect would have a gap of a few decades. It couldn't be helped. Dragon Tiger Mountain's Celestial Masters sect had many outstanding juniors. There were also many people who were called geniuses. But there was no one who could stand alone. At least, Zhang Tianyi only saw people like Chen Zhao. Or maybe only those who were slightly weaker could stand alone. Therefore, Zhang Tianyi had to plan ahead. Also, Zhang Tianyi gave Chen Zhao a deadline before he left. The day after tomorrow. That was the deadline. That thing in the Qinling Mountains was about to appear. Chen Zhao didn't know why Zhang Tianyi was so insistent on letting him fight. Was it because he was familiar with him? Although Zhang Tianyi was a troublemaker most of the time, Chen Zhao believed that the old man would be smart at times. Chen Zhao didn't want to admit it, but Zhang Tianyi was indeed smart when it came to dealing with supernatural events. Comparatively speaking, Chen Zhao was a bit slow. Most of the time, Chen Zhao liked to solve problems with his fists. After thinking about it, Chen Zhao decided to go to Dragon Tiger Mountain's Celestial Masters sect and meet Zhang Tianyi. He wanted to find out what was hidden in the Qinling Mountains. Chen Zhao didn't believe that Zhang Tianyi couldn't solve it without him. There were really many capable people in China. For example, the Taoist nun from Mao Mountain, perfected Qing Ping. Another example was the old Taoist priest who appeared with Zhang Ding when he first met him. They were all above the Shangqing state. They weren't the only ones in China's supernatural world. With just 3 to 5 of that level, they would basically be able to flatten any kind of demon or ghost. Why did they have to trick him back from abroad? The next day, Chen Zhao bought a ticket to Dragon Tiger Mountain. Of course, Emo Han was going with him. Chen Zhao's domestic assistant and bodyguard. However, when he reached the foot of Dragon Tiger Mountain, Chen Zhao stopped. He didn't want to go up anymore. Chapter 2709. At the foot of Dragon Tiger Mountain, there was a large group of Taoists holding flags and banners. The banners said, "Welcome Mr. Chen Zhao, to Dragon Tiger Mountain to exchange Taoist culture and promote long-term friendship." Then there was the sound of drums and firecrackers. Chen Zhao's steps wavered, his expression dazed. "Calm down. I have to calm down now. Suppressing his anger, Chen Zhao exhaled deeply. At this time, a 70 or 80-year-old Taoist walked towards Chen Zhao and Mo Han. Chen Zhao didn't know if the old Taoist was someone important in Dragon Tiger Mountain. But he was a normal person. He wasn't an expert who pretended to be a normal person. He was just a normal person. Hello, may I ask who is Mr. Chen Zhao? I am. Chen Zhao had a fake smile. Who are you? Hello, Mr. Chen. I'm Zhang Xianqing, the 145th leader of Dragon Tiger Mountain Celestial Masters sect. I'm also the chairman of the Taoist Culture Association. On behalf of the association, I thank you again for your great contribution to spreading and promoting Taoist culture. I don't understand. I understand. I understand that Mr. Chen wants to keep a low profile, Zhang Xianqing said. Chen Zhao still didn't understand what Zhang Xianqing was doing. Or what was Zhang Tianyi doing? Mr. Chen, when will the donation be delivered? Chen Zhao rubbed his forehead. As expected, Zhang Tianyi was tricking him. How much did I promise to donate? Or how much did someone promise me? 10 million yuan. Zhang Xuanqing's old face was almost blooming with a smile. Chen Zhao was so angry that his nose was crooked. 10 million yuan wasn't a lot. He could earn it by sleeping at home. However, Chen Zhao really didn't want to pay 10 million yuan. Seeing so many people's gazes, he really wanted to leave. But there weren't just hundreds of religious people here. There were even a dozen reporters. Chen Zhao didn't know what media they were from. Was he that free? This wasn't good, very bad. Chen Zhao took out his checkbook and wrote a check for Zhang Xianqing. After receiving the check, Zhang Xuanqing's smile became even brighter. It was as if he was 20 years younger. Oh, what position does Celestial Master Zhang have in the Taoist Culture Association? Honorary Chairman, Zhang Xianqing said. He'll be the vice president from now on, Chen Zhao said. I want to be the chairman, Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. That's impossible. Mr. Chen, Celestial Master Zhang's reputation and status in the Taoist world wouldn't allow us to do such a thing. Chen Zhao picked up the phone. Hey, cancel a sign check for me. Reason? It was stolen. Wait. Mr. Chen, you can't do that. No, I can. Chen Zhao looked at Zhang Xianqing with a smile. You haven't cashed the check yet. Even if you did, I can get it back. So, I hope you can calm Zhang Tianshi down. He has to be the honorary vice president whether he wants to or not. If I suddenly hear that he's going to resign, his lawyer will probably talk to you about Chinese law. Zhang Xianqing nodded. Zhang Tianyi wanted to discuss Chen Zhao, and Chen Zhao wanted to discuss Zhang Tianyi. Not to mention other aspects, at least in terms of status in the Taoist Culture Association. He was a notch above him. But, Mr. Chen, you're not even a Taoist, right? 10 million can't even buy a Taoist teaching certificate. Monks had credentials, while Taoists had Taoist teaching certificates. A Taoist teaching certificate was actually a bit complicated because the country didn't recognize you as a Taoist. But it recognized that you were a Taoist who had received the teachings of a Taoist master and disciple. It was a bit awkward and a bit roundabout. It was a way for the country to restrict religions. It prevented religions from becoming too big and even causing disasters to the country and people. Can I not take the money? Sure, but I'll use the 10 million to bribe the media to say something that disrespects Taoist culture. Mr. Qin, do you have a grudge against Zhang Tianyi? No, of course not. We're very good friends. Haha. Very good friends? Only a fool would believe you. But Zhang Xianqing was just joking. The 10 million yuan was in his pocket. It was impossible to take it out again. Not many people were willing to donate money to religious associations nowadays. Rich people like Chen Zhao were even more in need of resources. If one looked on the bright side, with a rich person like Chen Zhao, it wouldn't be bad to recognize a Taoist identity. He could use it as a long-term meal ticket. As for Celestial Master Zhang, he could find someone to talk to him about it. Celestial Master Zhang was reasonable and wouldn't make things difficult for him. After all, everyone was here to spread and promote Taoism. Zhang Tianyi, who was on Dragon Tiger Mountain, received a call. He was so angry that he smashed the phone to pieces. This time, he had shot himself in the foot. Zhang Tianyi called his disciples and grand-disciples and got into position. They were waiting for Chen Zhao to come. When Chen Zhao reached the top of Dragon Tiger Mountain's Celestial Master Sect, he saw Zhang Tianyi's troops. Among Zhang Tianyi's troops, there were a few that he knew. But he didn't know most of them. Of course, they didn't know Chen Zhao either. They didn't understand what was wrong with Celestial Master Zhang today. At first, they thought that some enemy had come to attack the sect. In the end, only 2 people came. Haha. Old Zhang. Haha. Chen Zhao. 2 hypocrites. It had only been one night. But they were like long-lost old friends. Warm greetings and hugs. Chen Zhao, give me back the honorary chairman of the Taoist Culture Association, Zhang Tianyi said in a low voice. You're the great Celestial Master Zhang. Why do you care about an honorary chairman? That's a part of my luck. I can give it to you, but you can't take it from me. Ha! I'm relieved to hear that. Chen Zhao chuckled. In the distance, the people of the Celestial Master Sect saw the old and young chatting happily. They all felt that Zhang Tianyi's action was unnecessary. They didn't understand why Celestial Master Zhang would make such a big scene. There were only a few people who knew Chen Zhao. They were all terrified. Among them, Cui Xiyin, the guardian beast of the Celestial Master Sect, was the most terrified. She didn't know that Chen Zhao would come, nor did she know why he was here. Prior to this, she had never heard of any news at all. In the past, Chen Zhao had left too deep an impression on her. She had almost died in his hands several times. Now she just wanted to escape to her room, lock the door, close the windows, and sleep for a long time. Yang Gua and the Dragon Girl, a crabwoman, also knew him. When they were on Demon Island, they had witnessed how terrifying Chen Zhao was. They finally understood that the guy in front of them wasn't weaker than Zhang Tianyi. Therefore, they were wary of Chen Zhao's sudden visit. Chapter 27:10. They clearly didn't know that Zhang Tianyi had found Chen Zhao. As for the fight between Chen Zhao and Zhang Tianyi, they basically wouldn't let a third person know. After all, they all had their own personas. Then, Zhang Tianyi dragged him away. The scenery of Mount Longhu was very good. The sea of clouds rose and fell, and the heaven and earth were boundless. As far as the eye could see, there were clouds at the end of the sky, and mountains at the end of the clouds. What surprised him was that Dragon Tiger Mountain's spiritual qi wasn't that abundant. At the very least, it seemed to be a level lower than Mao Mountain. As a Taoist sacred land of the same status as Mao Mountain, Chen Zhao did not believe that Dragon Tiger Mountain was so much weaker than the Mao Shan sect. That's all there is to Dragon Tiger Mountain, Chen Zhao said deliberately. Zhang Tianyi smiled and didn't refute him immediately. Let's walk around. In fact, Zhang Tianyi's personality was very similar to Chen Zhao's. They were the kind of people who were prideful to the core. Basically, as long as someone slandered them or something about them, they would be punished. They would retaliate without hesitation. It was obvious that Zhang Tianyi was pointing at a cave. Without any cover, it was at the end of the stone path. Chen Zhao and Zhang Tianyi entered the cave side by side. This place wasn't as primitive as Chen Zhao had thought. At the very least, the fluorescent lights along the way, as well as the Wi-Fi coverage along the way, indicated that this was not some primitive cave. After entering this place, the spiritual energy suddenly became abundant. Surprised, Chen Zhao looked back at the hole. There should be some kind of formation set up at the entrance of the cave to seal off the spiritual energy, right? Furthermore, the deeper he went, the more abundant the spiritual qi became. When he was 100 meters into the cave, the spiritual energy had already surpassed that of Mao Mountain. Walking further in, Chen Zhao saw a huge hole. There were more than a dozen people in the cave. They were scattered and seemed to be cultivating or meditating. There was an artifact placed on top of each of the stalactites that emerged from the ground. It could be a bronze cauldron, an ancient sword, or a strange object. Those should be magic tools, or magic treasures as they were called in China. There were many of them, at least 1,000 of them. This is... Chen Zhao looked at Zhang Tianyi in confusion. This is the 1,000 Opportunities Treasure Cave, an important place of Longhu Mountain's Heavenly Master Sect. Zhang Tianyi said, those are all artifacts left behind by previous generations of disciples, and a trace of divine thoughts is stored in them. They are gathered here, forming endless spiritual qi, waiting for their fated person to appear. Zhang Tianyi paused for a moment before continuing. Generally speaking, as long as you're an inner disciple, you can come here to cultivate. If you're lucky, you might even have a fortuitous encounter and obtain a magical treasure to recognize you as its master. Do you mind if I walk around here? When Chen Zhao heard that the treasures here might recognize him as their master, he already had some evil thoughts. In any case, he would find a corner with no one around and neatly collect a few magic treasures. No one would know. So what if he knew? At that time, he would insist that it was a magic treasure that suddenly flew towards him. In any case, once the item was in his hands, it didn't matter if the magic treasure was willing or not. Hee hee. Zhang Tianyi laughed. He knew exactly what Chen Zhao was planning. Zhang Tianyi had long seen through Chen Zhao's weaknesses. It's useless. You'll only be able to pick up scrap metal. Are you doubting my foresight? Even if these things choose you as their master, they'll be meaningless to you. Also, as long as they don't choose their master of their own accord, they'll lose a sliver of their former master's spiritual consciousness and become ordinary objects. So, keep your filthy thoughts to yourself. You didn't bring me here just for me to stare, did you? You must have prepared some big gift for me. Or some divine weapon that no one can subdue and has become a dangerous weapon, so you need me to subdue it. Don't be silly. Zhang Tianyi rolled his eyes and pointed ahead. The direction Zhang Tianyi was pointing at was the center of the venue. It was a stalactite, but there was nothing on it. What? An invisibility magic treasure? No, that's the ultimate treasure of Dragon Tiger Mountain. What do you mean? I don't understand. Where is it? I lost it. Chen Zhao glanced at Zhang Tianyi without saying anything. He waited for him to continue. Dragon Tiger Mountain's Infinite Universe Sword, Mao Mountain's Taoist Robe, and Kunlun Mountain's Primordial Gold Strand were all stolen by a monster. Ha! You must be joking. How can there be a monster in the world that can do that? Chen Zhao really didn't believe it. He put himself in Zhang Tianyi's shoes. He could steal a magic treasure here and then forcefully break through the encirclement. He could barely do it. Then steal Mao Mountain and Kunlun Mountain? Chen Zhao didn't know what sect Kunlun was. However, be it the status of movies or Taoism, both highlighted the supreme status of Kunlun Mountain. So, Kunlun probably wasn't much weaker than Dragon Tiger Mountain and Mao Mountain. The Taoist Wushu you saw that day is the leader of Kunlun, Zhang Tianyi said. Chen Zhao didn't say anything. He really shouldn't have come this time. Of course, Chen Zhao remembered Taoist Wushu, the cunning old Taoist. The old Taoist gave Chen Zhao a completely different feeling from Zhang Tianyi. Wushu had said that his cultivation wasn't as good as Zhang Tianyi's. But it probably wasn't that bad. If Chen Zhao still wanted to fight Zhang Tianyi to see who was stronger, in that case, Chen Zhao really didn't want to fight perfected Wushu. Wushu gave Chen Zhao the feeling that he was a bottomless pit. During the Tang dynasty, the world was in chaos and the people had no way to live. Stop. Don't give me a history lesson. I'm not a historian, but I know that period of history. Alright, back to the main topic. At that time, there was a 1,000-year ancient corpse sealed outside Luoyang City. It was said that the 1,000-year ancient corpse was a great evil from ancient times. In the early days, it wreaked havoc on the human world, causing misery and suffering. It was suppressed by the power of Mount Longhu, Mount Mao, and Mount Kunlun. However, because of the passing of 1,000 years, the world had already forgotten this dusty history. Only the three sects had some information about it, but it was not entirely true. At that time, the 1,000-year ancient corpse was reborn due to the heaven and earth's evil qi gathering for a long time. Only then did it attract the attention of the three sections. At that time, 2 of the 3 sects' sect masters died and 1 was injured. Only the Maoshan sect master was able to escape, and the treasures of the 3 sects were all taken by the 1,000-year ancient corpse. The Maoshan sect master brought back a piece of news. The 1,000-year ancient corpse wanted to refine the 3 treasures into its body and refine a devil body. Then, the cultivators of the Central Plains fought against the 1,000-year ancient corpse for more than 10 years. The 1,000-year ancient corpse stirred up a monstrous disaster and swept across the Central Plains. Later on, it was discovered that its devil body was formed on purpose to fight against the cultivators of Huaxia. It used its body to resist the cultivators' magic and magical treasures. In medical terms, it was immunity. After many battles, No one in Huaxia could harm the 1,000-year ancient corpse. Finally, a few dozen top cultivators from the Central Plains stood up and fought against the 1,000-year ancient corpse. They risked their lives to seal it for 1,000 years. The day after tomorrow will be the day when it will be unsealed. Chapter 27:11. Compared to the leader of Dragon Tiger Mountain back then, who's stronger? Chen Zhao asked. Should be about the same, Zhang Tianyi said. But I definitely know more spells than him. Dragon Tiger Mountain's heritage hasn't been lost, and many top spells have appeared in the future. If that's the case, you can seal him again, right? Chen Zhao asked. As I said, the 1,000-year-old corpse's demonic body has already been formed. After being attacked by spells, he's immune to them. Sealing him is also a spell attack, so we can't seal him anymore. Can't the country do anything? Chen Zhao asked. Yes, use nuclear bombs, but in our territory? That's the Qinling Mountains, not the border. Is there no other way? Chen Zhao frowned. For example, a top expert from a special organization? None? Yes, for example, I'm registered in a special organization, but it's useless. Our spells are useless against him. Didn't you say that many new spells appeared in the future? Those spells won't work? What I call new is actually just an improvement on an old spell. The basic principle of the spell has not changed, unless it is a truly new spell, the kind that is created from nothing. But since ancient times, especially from 1,000 years ago, the number of spells created from nothing can be counted on one hand, and there is not a single spell that can work in this battle, Zhang Tianyi said helplessly. 1,000 years ago, he should have fought against an enhancer like me, right? Is he immune to physical attacks too? In ancient times, people like you were called Hercules, Zhang Tianyi said. That 1,000-year-old corpse fought with Hercules, but he's not immune to physical attacks. To be immune to physical attacks, he has to kill Newton first. Zhang Tianyi was joking, of course. His meaning was simple. A demonic body could increase one's immunity, but the laws of physics were the foundation of the universe. A demonic body could change one's immunity, but it couldn't change the laws of the universe. Unless that 1,000-year-old corpse was an immortal. If he really became an immortal, then they shouldn't fight anymore. In that case, they should stop fighting and just go back to their own homes and find their own mothers. I don't think 3 great cultivators from the ancient times couldn't even deal with an old monster with a cultivation base similar to yours, let alone an old monster who hasn't cultivated a fiend body. But after cultivating a fiend body, I can deal with him alone. First of all, that 1,000-year ancient corpse was already prepared. According to the records, when he was alive, he was most likely a cultivator with an exceedingly high cultivation. He knew many powerful Tao laws, and because of this, he was able to defeat the 3 senior headmasters. Secondly, their techniques were most likely already broken, and this was the real reason why the 3 senior headmasters were defeated. Moreover, if one of the 3 was a strong warrior, then the outcome of the battle is still unknown. Since the ancient times, there have been many famous strong warriors, but there has never been a truly powerful one. It could even be said that you are the strongest strong warrior since the ancient times, so I invited you back from abroad for this battle. At this moment, Zhang Tianyi's tone was quite sincere, because this was the first time he had used the word, please. You are the key to our battle. No matter what you say, I won't do it if you want me to die. Just then, Zhang Tianyi took out a bank card and handed it to Chen Zhao. What? You want to bribe me with money? Stop joking. Even if you sell Dragon Tiger Mountain, you might not be richer than me. This is the reward from the country. It was originally for me, but now it's for you. Zhang Tianyi looked at Chen Zhao seriously. Chen Zhao's expression turned ugly. This old guy was using righteousness to pressure him. I'll say this first, Chen Zhao said. If I find that I can't win, I'll run first. Then, Chen Zhao forcefully took the card from Zhang Tianyi's fingers. Let's go. Follow me. Where to? I've prepared a weapon for you. Weapon? You said you've prepared a weapon for me? Chen Zhao didn't mind weapons, but what kind of weapon could he use? Even if he was given an aircraft carrier, Chen Zhao would think that it was too light. Carry a mountain and throw it at him? Most importantly, even metal wouldn't be able to hold it, let alone rock. It wasn't that he couldn't lift it, but that he couldn't support his own weight. Do you know that there's a strongman monument in China? I don't. Why? Since ancient times, thousands of top strongmen have integrated a trace of their spiritual will into the strongman monument. Originally, the strongman monument was placed in the capital, but it was borrowed by the government and sent to Mount Longhu. What's the use of that? What's the use? As long as you get the monument's recognition, you can borrow the power of the strongman's soul. The monument can also change its weight according to your will. Chen Zhao's eyes brightened. Changing its weight according to my will? That's good. Is it for me? Don't even think about it. The monument is used to guard the dragon's vein. It's only temporarily lent to you. Fine, fine. Chen Zhao twitched his lips. Zhang Tianyi brought Chen Zhao to a secret room. There was only a table in the room with a plate covered by a red cloth. Removing the red cloth revealed a stone mace. This is the strongman monument you were talking about? It doesn't look. Shut up. It's a national treasure. Be more respectful. Fine. Chen Zhao shrugged. What do you want me to do now? Kneel 3 times and kowtow 9 times? Hold it and pick it up. Chen Zhao took a deep breath and grabbed the mace. Instantly, countless divine consciousnesses rushed out of the mace. They turned into phantoms and rushed into Chen Zhao's mind. The phantoms seemed to be real. Chen Zhao slowly closed his eyes. But a second later, Chen Zhao's eyes flew open. At the same time, he lifted the mace. But then, he put it down again. What's wrong? This thing is useless. Useless? How? My power is already greater than all the strongmen combined, Chen Zhao said helplessly. That's why it's only handy to me. Also, it's too fragile. I don't even dare to use my full strength. I can't afford to hurt it. Zhang Tianyi frowned. Greater than the combined power of all the strongmen with their souls? Just how strong was Chen Zhao? Because he didn't have a specific number, Zhang Tianyi couldn't accurately judge Chen Zhao's power. But hearing Chen Zhao's words, he was still shocked. The combined power of thousands of strong people. The moment Chen Zhao let go, the table with the plate collapsed and the mace fell to the ground. Boom! The secret room collapsed too. Then, the ground shook violently. Zhang Tianyi charged out of the secret room. Then he saw a huge depression in the ground. The center of the depression was the secret room. Chen Zhao walked out of the ruins unhurriedly. You did it on purpose, right? I just forgot to remove the weight of the mace. Chen Zhao shrugged as if he really forgot. Zhang Tianyi didn't believe him. After all, Chen Zhao was the person who understood weight the most in this world, and perhaps in all of history. He couldn't forget how destructive a heavy object could be to the environment. Chapter 27:12. The commotion here also attracted some attention. Cui Xiyin was one of them. She'd been paying attention to Chen Zhao and Zhang Tianyi's conversation. First, she'd seen Zhang Tianyi bring Chen Zhao to the Thousand Opportunities Cave. Then, they'd come to this wooden house that was rather far from the main buildings. Then, they seemed to have gotten into an argument and even fought. This wooden house had clearly been destroyed because of their conflict. However, their conflict had ended as quickly as it had started. Very soon, it stopped again. These were all Cui Xiyin's personal guesses. Chen Zhao and Zhang Tianyi actually knew that Cui Xiyin wasn't far away. However, neither of them paid attention to her. When do we leave? The day after tomorrow, Zhang Tianyi said. We'll take a private plane and arrive before midnight. So, if everything goes well, we'll encounter that 1,000-year-old corpse when the Yin Qi is the strongest in the world? Chen Zhao asked, frowning. Not only when the Yin Qi is the strongest in the world, but it's the strongest in the past 1,000 years, Zhang Tianyi said seriously. Why? Why must he choose the best time to die? Because he'll break the seal at that time, Zhang Tianyi said. Zhang Tianyi said, regardless of whether it's the supernatural world or the higher-ups, they won't allow such a peerless great demon to move freely for even a minute. As long as he's given a quarter of an hour, he can completely disappear and cause an unimaginable catastrophe. Chen Zhao took a deep breath. Has something like this ever happened before? Do you know about the Tianqi explosion 400 years ago? Wasn't it determined to be the explosion of Wang Gong Residence's gunpowder warehouse? There's no conclusion, but some people in the Huaxia spiritual world and I know that it was an accident in the Dragon Lock Well. I've heard of the Dragon Lock Well. It said that there's a dragon locked inside. Is that true? In fact, there is a 3,000-year-old firebird locked inside. It is called the fire ghost, and it feeds on living souls. It is said that it was trapped by Liu Bowen in the early Ming dynasty. Later, Zhu Di moved the capital to suppress the fire ghost with the imperial dragon Qi, Zhang Tianyi said slowly. Even he couldn't tell whether it was true or not. Chen Zhao listened with great interest. Zhang Tianyi continued. The original intention was to use the imperial dragon Qi to suppress the fire ghost, but as the capital moved north, the fire ghost's magical power reached the heavens and earth. It was actually able to devour the Qi of the imperial dragon Qi while suppressing it. The Qi of the imperial dragon Qi also weakened. This is also why after Zhu Di, almost everyone in the Ming dynasty was mediocre. There wasn't another emperor as powerful as Zhu Yuanzhang or Zhu Di. In the 5th year of the Tianqi era, the imperial dragon Qi finally couldn't suppress the fire ghost anymore. As time went by, the fire ghost used the Qi of the imperial dragon Qi to break free from the seal. Its magical power was also several times stronger than before. It was also at that time that the cultivators of the Central Plains all came out and fought for 100 days, finally wiping out the fire ghost. However, the aftermath affected the entire Central Plains. First, the Tianqi emperor died the next year. Some say that it was because the Qi of the imperial dragon Qi was weak, causing the Tianqi emperor to lose the protection of the Qi of the imperial dragon. Then, the country was destroyed by Emperor Chongzhen. Zhang Tianyi looked at Chen Zhao. This is also why the higher-ups are paying so much attention to it. Not only can a great demon cause misery, but it can also destroy a country. The dragon and old monster Kunlai that I killed before were also great demons, but I think they can only cause trouble in one place at most. Isn't overthrowing the government a bit too scary? Although the great serpent dragon and old monster Kunlai sound like they're on the same level as the fire ghost, they're actually miles apart. Let's not talk about the others. Just these two alone had participated in the fire ghost's calamity back then. At that time, the two of them combined couldn't even match up to the fire ghost. Is the difference that big? You've fought them before. How strong do you think they are? Chen Zhao pursed his lips. He really didn't think they were that strong. I'll find a quiet place to go into seclusion for 2 days, Chen Zhao said. What? You're not confident in this battle? How can I be confident? Would you believe me if I said I'm 100% confident? Where are you going? Dragon Tiger Mountain can provide you with a place. No, you can't. Chen Zhao shook his head. If you're worried about old friends disturbing you, don't worry. Cui Xin can't wait to avoid you. With that, Zhang Tianyi glanced at Cui Xin, who was hiding not far away. Zhang Tianyi roughly knew what Cui Xin was thinking. After all, Chen Zhao had left too deep of a trauma in Cui Xin's heart. No, I just need a better place to go into seclusion. Chen Zhao planned to find a place with no one and then enter the river map. Because the river map was very important, Chen Zhao brought it with him on this trip. If you're not satisfied with Dragon Tiger Mountain, you won't be able to find a better place in all of Huaxia, unless you go to the capital. Zhang Tianyi knew that Chen Zhao was afraid of trouble, so he couldn't go to the capital. Chen Zhao shook his head. I just know a better place. Seeing that Chen Zhao had made up his mind, Zhang Tianyi didn't try to persuade him anymore. What Chen Zhao needed now was time. Chen Zhao could vaguely feel it. The thing he dug out from old monster Kunlai's brain that day was very important. It wasn't crucial to this battle. It was crucial to his future path. Inner world, chaotic aura. Chen Zhao had found a very secluded place. No one would come to this place for sure. This was the second highest peak in the world that was the hardest to climb, Mount Chogo. Chen Zhao dug a crack in the ice himself. After entering, he sealed the crack. Chen Zhao buried himself in the belly of the mountain. In the belly of the mountain, Chen Zhao hadn't entered the river map yet. Suddenly, a strange aura came from under his feet. This aura was completely different from magical power. It was similar to the immortal qi that he cultivated. But it wasn't exactly the same. Chen Zhao used brute force and smashed through the rock layer. As he went deeper, the aura became clearer. By then, Chen Zhao had smashed through at least 10,000 meters of rock and reached the bottom of Mount Chogo. Finally, after Chen Zhao punched through a thick layer of rock, the bottom suddenly collapsed. Chen Zhao fell into a huge lava cave. Below them was a huge lava lake, and in the center of the lava lake stood a tall tower. On the platform of the tower, a withered body sat cross-legged. It was a body that had lost its vitality long ago, but its power still remained. This power had been protecting the body, preventing it from being affected by the surrounding heat. Even its clothes weren't damaged at all. Chen Zhao was very confused about this body. Judging from its clothes, it was at least 300 years old. It also had some bronze items, so Chen Zhao suspected that it might be even older, even more than 2,000 years old. But its power still hadn't completely dissipated. Who was it when it was alive? How could it stay for so long without losing its power? Chapter 27:13. Now, Chen Zhao understood a little. Why was Huaxia the largest region in the spiritual world? Just go to some barren mountains and rivers. Then, he encountered an old skeleton that had passed away. This 1,000-year-old skeleton could be said to be a perpetual motion machine. Of course, the so-called perpetual motion machine didn't mean that it was endless. Instead, it was like hydroelectric or wind power. It formed a link with the environment, and from there, it grew and multiplied endlessly. Even if he lost his life, even if he lost control, this cycle was still perfectly preserved. Even Chen Zhao couldn't create such a near-perfect cycle. Chen Zhao wanted to move the skeleton into the river diagram. But the moment he touched the skeleton suddenly turned to dust. At the same time, the thing hidden under the skeleton was exposed. It was dozens of ancient words carved on the platform. They were all hieroglyphs. Chen Zhao couldn't understand what they said at all. Suddenly, Chen Zhao's body heated up. His small world seemed to be absorbing the surrounding flame energy. Chen Zhao's heart jumped. These weren't hieroglyphs. These were the circulation routes. Moreover, this was the circulation route of the small world. This was the foundation of the small world, the circulation route of the heavenly pattern. However, the route extended to the inside of the body. Then it was suddenly cut off. No, he couldn't cultivate it. After absorbing the surrounding flame energy, he wouldn't be able to continue the cultivation method. This cultivation method wasn't complete. Chen Zhao's expression darkened. Was this thing used to trick people? Fortunately, his body was extraordinary. He didn't absorb much flame energy either. If he was a normal person or a regular cultivator, after absorbing the flame energy, he would probably self-combust. This guy had bad intentions even after he died? Chen Zhao felt that this guy had bad intentions. But thinking carefully, he suddenly felt that it wasn't right. If this guy really wanted to trick people, he wouldn't hide in such an undiscoverable place. Once the terrain changed, this place would probably disappear. Chen Zhao carefully observed the hieroglyphs again. After absorbing the flame energy, there should still be a circulation route. But the flame energy was different from spiritual energy. It shouldn't be absorbed into the dantian. Then where should it be? Chen Zhao started thinking. Chen Zhao could vaguely feel that this circulation route seemed to be somewhat similar to old Monster Kunlai's nameless technique. Could it be that this was the completed part of the inner world's cultivation method? However, the inner world needed the primal chaos qi that was obtained after refining the extreme yin qi and extreme yang qi. Logically speaking, it shouldn't be this kind of scorching flame qi. Chen Zhao thought for a while. If he used the cultivation method of the inner world, it seemed a little risky. After all, he only had a preliminary understanding of the cultivation method of the inner world. He didn't know much about it, and now he was using a cultivation technique of unknown origin to fuse it. The risk was still quite high. But there was still a voice in Chen Zhao's mind. It seemed to be constantly telling him that his train of thought was correct. Chen Zhao decided to try this. It was risky, but he was ambitious. Chen Zhao sat down and carefully absorbed the surrounding heat. It was different from the previous passive absorption. This time, Chen Zhao was more proactive. Not only did the flames not resist, but they were even more agreeable to his absorption. After the flame energy flowed through the heavenly patterns on the small world, it was channeled into his body. At that moment, even though Chen Zhao possessed the nirvana flame, he still felt like his entire body was being engulfed by the scorching aura. His meridians were also throbbing with pain. Chen Zhao gritted his teeth and forcefully activated the nirvana flame to repair the damage to his meridians. However, Chen Zhao wasn't worried about the pain that wasn't fatal. Because Chen Zhao's greatest ability was adaptability. As expected, in just a few minutes, the burning pain from the flame energy began to subside. Although it didn't completely disappear, it was within an acceptable range. Chen Zhao began to open his inner world according to the cultivation method of the inner world. What was the inner world? The sea of consciousness, its own world. Chen Zhao's eyes turned red and lost focus. The flame energy was absorbed into the sea of consciousness. The sea of consciousness was instantly covered by flames. It seemed like it was about to collapse. Chen Zhao suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. However, he couldn't stop the cultivation method no matter what. The flame energy seemed to want to burn Chen Zhao's sea of consciousness. The Nirvana flame. Chen Zhao immediately fused the Nirvana flame into his sea of consciousness. He hoped that the Nirvana flame could repair his sea of consciousness. However, Chen Zhao had miscalculated. The Nirvana flame could only repair a body with vitality. The sea of consciousness was the source of the spirit. It didn't exist in the body. Moreover, after the flame energy came into contact with the Nirvana flame, it didn't weaken. Instead, it surged even more violently. Chen Zhao felt like his head was about to split open. No, the two weren't the same cultivation method at all. He was cultivating in a suicidal manner. He had to think of a way to turn the situation around. Chen Zhao forced himself to calm down and started analyzing. Since the flame energy could be absorbed into the inner world, it should be the same as Kunlai's cultivation method. However, the two weren't the same. This meant that the two had something in common. It wasn't completely out of place. Chen Zhao went through Kunlai's cultivation method in his mind. Since the inner world was called the inner world, it should have something in common with the outer world. What did he miss out on? Chen Zhao's brain worked rapidly. Heavenly pattern. The only difference between the inner world and the outer world was that there were no heavenly patterns. However, this heavenly pattern wasn't his in the beginning. He'd stolen a heavenly pattern from the inner world and then made it his. Could he also fuse the heavenly pattern into the inner world? Chen Zhao immediately fused the inner world into his body. Then, he released the flame energy and let the heavenly pattern carry it. As expected, the violence in the inner world stopped. The pain was still there, but the destructive flame energy stopped temporarily. His sea of consciousness also started to repair itself. This was a trick that Chen Zhao had found not long ago. It was a method that Chen Zhao had figured out himself. It was used to increase his combat ability. He'd used it when he'd fought Zhang Tianyi before. Now, it seemed that he'd accidentally found this key point. Chen Zhao was invigorated. He tried to stuff the heavenly pattern into the inner world. It seemed to work. The inner world didn't reject the fusion of the heavenly pattern. The two were very compatible. It was even smoother than Chen Zhao had imagined. Soon, the heavenly pattern had completely fused into his sea of consciousness. At the same time, it felt like the outer world in his sea of consciousness. At that moment, Chen Zhao felt like he had the power to lift the sky. It was the power emitted from the inner world. After fusing with the heavenly pattern, when he channeled the flame energy, it no longer brought Chen Zhao pain. Instead, it nourished him. Chapter 27:14. Chen Zhao entered the river diagram. He started to study the series of techniques he'd just completed. To be honest, if Chen Zhao hadn't saved himself just now, he might really have died. In the past, Chen Zhao had always explored and cultivated by himself. But it had never been so dangerous. This time, if there was even the slightest mistake, it was possible that both his body and soul would be destroyed. Then, like the 1,000-year-old skeleton, he would be left with an empty shell. Luckily, he'd passed this trial. With the previous lesson, Chen Zhao had to be much more careful. Of course, both domestic cultivators and foreign spiritualists were the same. Only after suffering would one learn to be careful. But most of the time, suffering could mean losing one's life. Of course, this was also a danger that a pioneer had to face. In this era, there was probably no one who could guide Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao felt his inner world. After merging with the heavenly pattern, the outer world and inner world also merged into one. After studying for a long time, Chen Zhao finally figured out the function of the inner world. The inner world and the outer world formed a whole. It was different from the outer world, which was restricted by its surroundings. The inner world didn't have any restrictions. There was a saying, the greater the heart, the greater the power. The inner world was also very suitable. The difference was how much power the body could withstand. In this aspect, Chen Zhao had the most advantage. At least compared to Zhang Tianyi, Bifla, and the 23rd Blood Mary. Chen Zhao was undoubtedly the one who could withstand it the most. Chen Zhao realized that Kunlai's technique wasn't complete. The cultivation technique he'd found here was also incomplete. Both were used to cultivate the inner world, but the methods were different. One was to absorb yin and yang chaotic qi, while the other was to absorb the more violent flame qi. Not only could he absorb the flame qi, but he could also absorb lava directly. To put it more directly, he could store lava in his brain and the inner world inside. Normal people wouldn't do this. Even people with the same cultivation as Chen Zhao wouldn't store lava directly. The weight of the lava wouldn't disappear. It would still become a part of the body. But Chen Zhao didn't care, because he could completely withstand it. Through two completely different cultivation methods, Chen Zhao figured out a brand new cultivation method that belonged to him. One benefit of absorbing lava was that the lava contained a huge amount of flame qi. It was far denser than the flame qi in the air, and it was much more convenient to extract it. By releasing the flame qi from his inner world, Chen Zhao could instantly turn his small world into a scorching purgatory. It could even reach the surface of the sun in a small area. Moreover, the extra weight of the magma would give him a more realistic sense of impact in close combat. This was especially true when Meteor was released. The weight it brought would turn Meteor into a destructive move. However, the disadvantage was also obvious. It would make it difficult for him to move around, especially when taking public transportation. Unless Chen Zhao stayed in the air forever. This would have a serious impact on his private life. Therefore, Chen Zhao still decided to absorb the magma first, then enter the river diagram to absorb the heat in the magma, and then come out to absorb the magma. Although this cultivation method was complicated, it was very effective. Chen Zhao did it step by step. In the beginning, he was rather careful. However, as he familiarized himself with the entire process, his cultivation speed increased. The speed at which he absorbed the lava was extremely fast, and through the thousand-fold time difference in the river diagram, the speed at which he absorbed the fiery aura was even faster. His inner world could contain an unlimited amount of fiery aura, which meant that there was no limit to this cultivation method. However, there was a problem: the cultivation speed and how much his body could contain. Chen Zhao had a godlike artifact like the river diagram, so his cultivation speed increased by leaps and bounds. However, other people clearly didn't have such treasures. The growth of his inner world was the growth of his spiritual power. As Chen Zhao continuously absorbed the fiery aura, his spiritual power was also close to being able to control objects. This was the so-called psychokinesis. Of course, even without psychokinesis, Chen Zhao could still move anything in his inner world. However, psychokinesis was psychokinesis. It was a sign of highly condensed spiritual power. Some people were born with psychokinesis because their spiritual power was naturally higher than normal people's. They also knew how to condense their spiritual power. However, Chen Zhao's psychokinesis wasn't born with superior spiritual power. It was purely because it was huge. Moreover, Chen Zhao realized that he could start a fire anywhere in his inner world. If his opponent was a normal person, he could burn them to ashes with a single thought. Chen Zhao felt that he had to give himself a title from the supernatural world, such as Lava Tyrant. However, when he thought about it, Lava Tyrant sounded like a villain no matter how he thought about it. At least he'd done a few positive things in the open and in the dark. Therefore, if he wanted to give it a name, he needed a more positive one. For example, God of Fire or God of the Sun. However, Bifla had once said that he couldn't casually use the names and titles of gods on himself. Without the power of a god, he shouldn't covet the title of a god. That would only bring him misfortune. 2 days later, Chen Zhao finally crawled out of the crack in the ice. Right now, Chogo Peak was engulfed in a snowstorm. The visibility was no more than 5 meters. Even Chen Zhao's supervision couldn't see more than this. However, Chen Zhao's inner world had already covered more than 2,000 meters. In these 2 days, Chen Zhao's inner world had expanded again. It was now 2,000 meters in diameter. Chen Zhao's spiritual power had also increased by more than 10 times. He could even see the shape of each falling snowflake. Just then, a dozen figures appeared in Chen Zhao's perception range. They were the mountaineering team. Their original plan was to go to the next station. However, they were attacked by a snowstorm on the way. As a result, they had to advance and retreat. In such a snowstorm, they couldn't even move 200 meters in 10 hours. After a short discussion, they decided to continue climbing the mountain and try to reach the next station before dark. Chen Zhao stood in the snowstorm and eavesdropped on their conversation. They didn't talk much and they were all using walkie-talkies. However, Chen Zhao still heard their conversation and learned of their current predicament. A few of them were already out of energy. If he didn't do anything, they might die here. After all, the mortality rate on Chogo Peak was as high as 27%. Chen Zhao felt that if he didn't interfere, they would really die here. Chapter 27:15. This wasn't a pleasant process. Mountaineers were warriors. They used this process to challenge themselves. They challenged the limits of humans, but at the same time, they used their uncertain future to warn others. They were similar to Chen Zhao in this aspect. They were both walking on a tightrope. They were both walking on an unknown path. They followed the footprints that their predecessors couldn't recognize. If they took a step, they might see boundless light or a bottomless abyss. Of course, the biggest possibility was that the team would collapse along the way. Cold and fatigue eroded their willpower. Chen Zhao lifted his head and looked at the sky. Perhaps he could control the weather in a small area. Chen Zhao consciously released his scorching heat into the sky. There was a thundercloud thousands of meters up in the sky. The thundercloud was affected by the cold air, causing a snowstorm. Moreover, Mount Chogo was located at the border of Central Asia. The hot wind from Central Asia rubbed against the cold air, creating a strong collision of air currents. This was also the reason why Mount Chogo's weather was extremely bad most of the time. Chen Zhao thought that he should be able to disperse the thundercloud. Of course, he could save the team with his own hands. However, doing so would shatter the faith in their hearts. It might even topple their worldview. Just think about it. They'd worked so hard. But others could even stand on the side and watch. They could easily accomplish what they'd tried their best to do. To them, this was a disaster of faith. Moreover, Chen Zhao wanted to try doing some things. Some things that he couldn't do in the past. For example, the ability to summon the wind and rain in the legends. The heat Chen Zhao released quickly formed a huge ball of hot air. It crashed into the thundercloud in the sky. Boom! The huge impact cleared the sky. The team all looked up at the sky. They didn't understand what was happening. But they didn't think too much about it. After all, in such an extremely harsh environment, anything could happen. But before Chen Zhao could be happy, the cumulus clouds gathered again. Chen Zhao could feel that an even bigger storm was about to form. Because the hot air he'd released had replaced the air in the surrounding area, the hot air was changing its home field with the cold air in the surrounding area. At the same time, the collision between the cold and hot air became more intense. In other words, he'd created a superstorm with his own hands. He had to admit that this was a new skill that he'd unintentionally developed. This was basically a disguised strategic weapon. However, there was one drawback to this skill. It was useless against high-level players. Basically, it was used to slaughter civilians. Why would he want something like that? Be a bastard against humanity? Chen Zhao felt like his brain was filled with lava. However, he wouldn't go so far as to do something so stupid. This skill's destruction and lethality couldn't compare to meteor. Unless Chen Zhao used this skill in a tropical or subtropical city with a sunny beach. The people there all wore casual shorts. However, releasing flame chi in such a place would only bring about tropical storms. If it was thrown in an area like Siberia, it would at most reduce the number of wild animals in the area, and its lethality to humans would be close to zero. After all, everyone who lived in Siberia wore a few windbreakers. Chen Zhao looked at the mountaineering team. It looked like he had done something stupid. He had made their situation even more difficult. He could only give up on trying to save them by changing the environment. Chen Zhao helped them block the wind. At the same time, he raised the surrounding temperature appropriately, temporarily lowering the difficulty for them. Li, do you feel it? That's weird. The wind is weaker and the temperature is rising. Birmingham, do you know what's going on? That's weird. Why is it like this? Is it our near-death hallucination? From what I can see, there's still a blizzard 600 meters ahead, But why is the blizzard blocked? The team member glanced at his watch. The surrounding temperature is 12 degrees. Is there something wrong? Chen Zhao ignored these rambling climbers. After they reached the base, Chen Zhao left Chogo Peak. Just then his phone rang. Chen Zhao, where are you? I'm on my way to Dragon Tiger Mountain. More accurately, I'm in the stratosphere. You can fly that high? I'm suddenly envious of you. I wonder if I can make it in time to focus on strengthening. Zhang Tianyi was confident that he wasn't weaker than Chen Zhao. However, he couldn't fly that high. It wasn't that Zhang Tianyi couldn't fly, but he couldn't move long distances at that height. The low temperature, low pressure, and cosmic radiation were all very threatening to Zhang Tianyi. However, for someone like Chen Zhao, these extreme environments didn't affect him at all. You better hurry. Our plane leaves at 3 in the afternoon. You still have 2 hours. You seem to have some misunderstanding about my movement speed. Even if I fly by myself, I'll reach the Qinling Mountains before you. Forget it. I have nothing to talk about with a bastard with a monstrous body like you. Zhang Tianyi was full of envy and jealousy. However, his cultivation direction was completely different from Chen Zhao's. While he was envious, he couldn't become Chen Zhao. Pop, when Chen Zhao landed on Dragon Tiger Mountain, he was stopped by the mountain's protective array. However, Chen Zhao still landed forcefully. The protective array didn't forcefully curse Chen Zhao's landing. It seemed that if he exceeded a certain limit, the array would automatically let him through. Chen Zhao arrived at the main hall of Dragon Tiger Mountain's Celestial Masters sect. Zhang Tianyi walked out, followed by 4 young men and women. The 4 young men and women were all beauties. The men were extraordinarily handsome and the women were youthful and beautiful. However, their clothes didn't fit in with the Celestial Masters sect. They looked like 4 fashionable men and women. It was even more awkward for them to follow behind Zhang Tianyi. Old Zhang, are you planning to form a team and debut? Looking at your position, it looks like you're going to debut at the center position. With that, Chen Zhao was immediately stared at by 4 death stares. When the 4 young men looked at Chen Zhao, their eyes were filled with hostility. Before you have enough strength, hide your thoughts. Otherwise, you'll be killed by that bastard. Zhang Tianyi didn't need to turn his head to know what the 4 young men were thinking. Chen Zhao was 29 now. The oldest of the 4 was probably only in their early 20s. Naturally, Chen Zhao was their senior. Of course, those 4 arrogant and unruly juniors. He definitely wouldn't accept Chen Zhao's identity as a senior. If you're not convinced, just come over. Chen Zhao, you're not here to discipline the kids for me. Chapter 27:16. Advisor, we want to try and see how big the difference is between us and this master you hired. No need to try. If the difference isn't big, you can recognize yourselves. But if it's too big, the difference will be meaningless. Zhang Tianyi rejected the young people's request decisively. Just then, Chen Zhao interrupted. Old Zhang, I'm happy to help you take care of these kids. The word kids sounded too awkward coming from Chen Zhao's mouth. It felt like he was mocking the young people. Chen Zhao didn't care if Zhang Tianyi was happy or not. He stepped forward. Come, all 4 of you together. Zhang Tianyi's face darkened. Do you need to discipline my great disciples? Chen Zhao, stop messing around. We still have to go to the airport. It's fine. It'll end soon. Zhang Tianyi was upset. It was fine if Chen Zhao couldn't persuade him. After all, he didn't have any good intentions. But his great disciples were also like this. What was going on? Just then, one of the girls walked out. Her hair instantly turned red. Sir, please. The red-haired girl's entire body was emitting hot flames. Special bloodline. Chen Zhao was surprised. You don't look hot enough. I'll add some more. Chen Zhao didn't seem to do anything, but the flames on the red-haired girl suddenly turned deep red. Ah! Hot! Hot! Ah! Chen Zhao immediately retracted the flames and absorbed the red-haired girls. The flames were finally extinguished. Sorry, I've been studying fire spells recently, Chen Zhao said, chuckling. At the same time, he glanced at Zhang Tianyi from the corner of his eye. Zhang Tianyi's eyelids twitched in anger. He was always protective. Of course, he wasn't happy to see Chen Zhao bully his disciple. Zhang Tianyi glanced at Chen Zhao and lowered his head. He secretly sent a telepathic message to his 4 disciples. Don't use lightning and water, Zhang Tianyi said. He's better at those too. Zhou Yi, Wei Ming, you don't need to do anything. Fang Ya, you can use chaos spells to create some trouble for him. Just a little trouble and we'll win. Grandmaster, even if he knows thunder, water and fire, it can only be said that his spell system is very complicated. He can't be compared to pure awakened ones like us. Haha. His magic system isn't complicated. He isn't a fire element, nor is he a water element, nor is he a lightning element. He's a Hercules, a strengthening element. That's what he's best at. Hercules? That's even less of a problem. I don't believe I will lose to a strong man. Don't be silly. Zhang Tianyi rolled his eyes. If you look down on him just because he's a strong man, the next time you meet him, you'll only be crushed into a fried dough twist. Zhang Tian pointed at the red-haired girl on the ground. A clear mind technique fell on her body, moisturizing her burnt skin. Fang Ya, whom he had called out, walked out and said, Your Excellency, please advise me. Zhang Tianyi kept staring at Chen Zhao. He could vaguely feel that Chen Zhao's aura seemed to have changed after 2 days. This was also why he didn't forcefully stop his 4 great disciples from challenging Chen Zhao. He wanted to test Chen Zhao with the 4 of them. Fang Ya's aura was very obscure. Chen Zhao could feel her aura, but he couldn't tell what element it was. Chen Zhao tilted his head and looked at Fang Ya. With a point of his finger, a ball of flame appeared before Fang Ya. But the moment the flame approached Fang Ya, it actually turned into nothingness. No element. Chen Zhao raised an eyebrow. Fang Ya seemed to have the same constitution as him. She could turn all directional spells into elemental spiritual qi. Of course, the biggest feature of an elemental constitution wasn't just immunity to most spells. Moreover, it could directly absorb spirit qi and use it to transform into magical power to attack. Fang Ya was very good at this. She directly turned the fire qi Chen Zhao released into her own attack. Fang Ya pushed her palm out and a huge palm several meters wide slapped at Chen Zhao. Whoosh! The palm landed on Chen Zhao's body directly. Chen Zhao took a step back. Chen Zhao was stunned. Zhang Tianyi suddenly laughed out loud. Chen Zhao, you lost. Haha. You actually lost to my great disciple. Chen Zhao's face darkened. He looked at Fang Ya. He didn't want to admit it, but he didn't want to argue either. Even if he'd been distracted just now. Let's go, Chen Zhao said with a dark expression. We have to catch a flight. Zhang Tianyi was very excited that Chen Zhao had lost. Last time, he'd lost to Chen Zhao. This time, his great disciple had actually helped him win. This made him very excited. Even if the victory and defeat were just on the surface. If they really fought, the 4 juniors wouldn't even be able to last a second against Chen Zhao. Fang Ya was able to become his great disciple because Zhang Tianyi had actually raised her like a personal disciple. In terms of talent, Fang Ya wasn't actually outstanding. It could even be said to be very mediocre. At least, she was much more mediocre than the other 3. But Zhang Tianyi saw Chen Zhao's shadow in Fang Ya, even though the 2 were a solar system apart. But Zhang Tianyi really wanted to copy a monster like Chen Zhao. Moreover, after reading through the books, he realized that Fang Ya's constitution was the legendary chaotic constitution. All elements would return to chaos when they approached her. In terms of Dharma, Fang Ya's absorption ability wasn't strong and her comprehension was mediocre. But Zhang Tianyi had high hopes for Fang Ya. Compared to the other 3 geniuses, he even thought more highly of Fang Ya. Fang Ya didn't just have the characteristic of turning spells of other elements into chaos. Furthermore, she was very compatible with it. She could be compatible with all elements. For example, fire and water. For normal cultivators, these 2 elements countered each other. But Fang Ya wouldn't feel any conflict at all. Moreover, Zhang Tianyi could better understand Chen Zhao's weakness from Fang Ya. This was also one of his plans. The other 3 young men were also very proud. After all, Fang Ya was also one of them. Fang Ya's victory was their victory. Okay, pack up. You don't have to do anything in the Qinling Mountains. You just have to watch from the side. This demon-subduing trip will be the battle and responsibility you'll face in the future. Yes, this disciple will follow your instructions. They're going to? Are you sure they're not feeding the 1,000-year-old corpse? Chen Zhao looked at Zhang Tianyi with a strange expression. Haha. Don't forget, that little girl defeated you before. If you can go, why can't she go? Zhang Tianyi said with a smile, even though the two of them were well aware of it. But Zhang Tianyi liked to use this reason to annoy Chen Zhao. Actually, he just wanted to bring Feng Ya and let her see how her senior fought. Chapter 27:17. After boarding the plane, Chen Zhao fell into a deep sleep. Chen Zhao had been gone for 2 days, but the amount of sleep he lacked was far more than that. It wouldn't affect Chen Zhao's physical condition, but he would still get some sleep when necessary. No matter how fit or energetic a person was, they still needed to sleep. Just because you weren't tired didn't mean you didn't need to sleep. Apart from replenishing your energy, sleep could also adjust your body cells and physiological functions to their best state. Chen Zhao was no exception. It was one thing to be energetic, but after a long period of activity, the body's reaction mechanism would be out of balance. It was the same logic as how people needed holidays after work. Chen Zhao's body needed holidays too. Zhang Tianyi was enjoying the service of the flight attendants. The old man was dressed in a Chinese tunic suit. He looked quite cool. Feng Ya, Zhou Yi, Wei Ming, and Li Qin were gathered together. They were discussing in low voices. Anyway, they didn't like Chen Zhao in any way. They felt that Zhang Yi had found the wrong person. They thought that Chen Zhao was just an empty shell. Maybe he was strong, but he wasn't as strong as the four of them working together. When Chen Zhao boarded the plane, he immediately fell asleep in his seat. He didn't look like an expert at all. Zhang Tianyi only woke him up after he got off the plane. If the four young people thought so, they might as well let Chen Zhao sleep on the plane forever. Chen Zhao rubbed his sleepy eyes and asked, "Where are we going now? The hotel? Haven't you slept enough?" Zhang Tianyi glanced at him. "I haven't been sleeping enough recently," Chen Zhao said calmly. "Also, I'm hungry. Didn't you remove the spell on you?" "Yes, but eating and sleeping are normal physiological needs." "You look like you haven't slept or eaten for a year." Zhang Tianyi's unintentional words hit the nail on the head. Chen Zhao hadn't slept or eaten for almost a year. "Forget it. Wake me up when we get there." Chen Zhao yawned and fell asleep in his seat. Chen Zhao didn't know how long he slept for. When Zhang Tianyi woke him up again, the sky was already gray. Chen Zhao rubbed his eyes. The car was moving slowly and bumpily. "Where are we?" "In the mountains." Zhang Tianyi said, "This is deep in the nature reserve, so there are not many man-made facilities, and there is only a dirt road on the ground. This place could be considered a deep mountain forest. Due to the color of the sky, this place looked a little dim. Most of the light was blocked by the dense vegetation. At this moment, the car stopped. The driver was a local. After dropping them off, he said a few words and left. "What do we do now? Where should I go?" Chen Zhao asked. Zhang Tianyi looked around. "Waiting for someone. Waiting for someone." Zhang Tianyi's face suddenly broke into a smile, and he called out in a clear voice, "Immortal Wu Su, Immortal Qing Ping, since you're here, why are you still hiding?" Perfected Wu Su and Perfected Qing Ping were nearby. He didn't feel it at all. However, after waiting for a long time, the two of them did not appear. Chen Zhao looked at Zhang Tianyi. Zhang Tianyi was still smiling. "Looks like they're not nearby. What were you doing just now?" "I'm testing them. If they are nearby and I take the initiative to invite them, it will show that I am very smart," Zhang Tianyi said matter-of-factly. "Don't you think it's embarrassing to guess wrong?" "It's fine. There are no outsiders here." "Ha!" Chen Zhao sneered. Just then, Chen Zhao felt two auras approaching. Zhang Tianyi felt it almost at the same time. "Ha! They're here." Soon, he saw Perfected Qing Ping and Perfected Wu Su arrive on an old, green, three-wheeled motorcycle. Perfected Wu Su was an old bag of bones. He was dressed rather casually and looked rather fashionable. He wore a motorcycle helmet, a loose t-shirt, and a pair of knee-length shorts. However, his white goatee flew in the wind, indicating his age. Comparatively, Perfected Qing Ping was much more normal. When he saw Chen Zhao, He wasn't surprised. Instead, he nodded slightly at Chen Zhao from a dozen meters away. Chen Zhao was a bit confused. When they first met, it was a situation where they would fight to the death. Especially later, when he crippled Zhang Ding. He and Mao Mountain should be absolutely irreconcilable, right? Even if perfected Qingping knew that Chen Zhao was coming, he shouldn't be so calm. He shouldn't be so calm, right? At the very least, he should show some anger or hatred. But what's with that calm greeting? Is there some conspiracy? Perfected Tianyi, you're right. Perfected Wu Su and perfected Qingping greeted Zhang Tianyi with a Taoist seal. They were probably the three most senior people in Taoism. Of course, they might also be the three most senior people in the Huaxia spiritual world. Their status was also extremely respected. But after the greeting, the three went back to calling each other like normal. Old Zhang, Old Li, and Old Chen were all familiar names. I thought you would bring some disciples, Zhang Tianyi said. Forget it. I'm not completely confident this time, so I won't bring any disciples, perfected Wu Su said. At the same time, he looked at the people behind Zhang Tianyi. Old Zhang, you're really brave. You actually brought 4 disciples. Anyway, I'm prepared, Zhang Tianyi said, smiling. If the situation turns bad, I'll run away. Let's go, perfected Qingping said. We still have a long way to go. At the same time, he glanced at Chen Zhao. Aren't you going to talk to him? No, perfected Qingping said. I'll find a chance to talk to him later. Zhang Tianyi turned around and said to Chen Zhao and the others, Chen Zhao, let's go. The mountain road wasn't easy to walk on, but that was only for normal people or cultivators. At least, the mountain road that caused some trouble for Fang Yao and the others didn't bring too much trouble to Chen Zhao, Zhang Tianyi, perfected Wu Su, and perfected Qingping. Right at this moment, an extremely strong odor assaulted their nostrils. The smell wasn't disgusting, but it made them feel uncomfortable. It was as if some highly toxic chemical had leaked out. Along with the smell, there were also some blurry shadows. They shuttled through the forest in front of them, making it difficult for the naked eye to catch their figures. Chen Zhao still looked listless. At the same time, he looked at Zhang Tianyi and the others. Leave it to us 3 old guys, Zhang Tianyi said. Zhang Tianyi clearly planned to leave the most difficult part to Chen Zhao. Of course, Chen Zhao had already mentally prepared himself before coming. Chapter 27:18. Fangya looked at the battle before her. Those 3 were the few remaining antique figures in the Huaxia, or even the entire world. Those demons and ghosts that they had never heard of could not even last a round in front of them. Fangya saw with her own eyes that a monster the size of a small mountain had its guts pierced by Zhang Tianyi's heavenly lightning summoning. That kind of monster that only existed in nightmares was like a little kitten in front of Zhang Tianyi. She looked at Chen Zhao beside her. He was still in a daze. He couldn't even walk into a tree. Fangya was completely speechless. Was this guy here to be a judge like her? Chen Zhao had been adjusting his mental state. He kept making his mental state reach its peak, perfect, and even surpass it. Ever since his inner world opened, Chen Zhao's mental power had reached a terrifying level. Mental power didn't just affect the environment and enemies. It also affected his own body. Taoist Wushu turned to look at Chen Zhao, surprise in his eyes. That kid gave me a different feeling again, Taoist Wushu said. What do you think? I didn't find the wrong person, right? If there are no accidents, he'll be the uncrowned king of the spiritual world in the next 100 years. Zhang Tianyi nodded slightly. He'd also foreseen this situation. Chen Zhao's rise was too fast and too powerful. When he'd found out about Chen Zhao, he'd already reached the top. Furthermore, with his enhancing type ability, his future was practically sealed. Perhaps someone could defeat him, but no one could kill him. For example, if the 3 of them really wanted to deal with Chen Zhao, it wasn't like they had no way. They could seal him for a few years or even a few decades. But what about after that? If Chen Zhao died in the seal after a few decades, everything would be fine. But if Chen Zhao didn't die in the seal, then everything would be fine. When they reached the end of their lives, the sects behind them would face a destructive blow. This meant that they weren't willing to become enemies with Chen Zhao. There were no benefits. Instead, there would be terrifying consequences. And the old antiques weren't willing to do anything. Even if they wanted to, they didn't have the ability. Moreover, no one would be willing to do something like harming others without benefiting themselves. Zhang Tianyi turned to look at Chen Zhao. Surprise flashed in his eyes. How did Chen Zhao's spiritual power become so powerful? It would only take 2 days. How did he manage to expand his mental strength by 100-fold in just 2 days? Chen Zhao's spiritual power was already very strong. At the very least, there was a difference of tens of times between them and ordinary cultivators. But with this foundation, Chen Zhao was 100 times stronger. No matter how he thought about it, it was inconceivable. Was it because of the inner world? Zhang Tianyi had never cultivated the inner heaven and earth, but he had read about the various miracles of the inner heaven and earth through the records in the mountain gate. Therefore, Zhang Tianyi's first thought was that Chen Zhao had succeeded in cultivating his inner world. Opening his inner world resulted in a sharp increase in his mental strength. Enlightened Wu Su and enlightened Qing Ping did not know much about it. He felt that Chen Zhao's spiritual power was unfathomable. When perfected Qingping heard perfected Wushu say that Chen Zhao would be the uncrowned king of the supernatural world in the next 100 years, his gaze became even more determined. In fact, immortal Qingping's thoughts were very simple. Because of Zhang Ding, the Maoshan inner sect was in a state of decline. No matter what Zhang Ding did, he was still the face of Mao Mountain. But now, Mao Mountain's reputation had been destroyed. Moreover, Zhang Ding had caused a scene in the Maoshan inner sect. In the end, he had even flattened the Yao Ceiling Tower. It was a huge blow to the Mao Mountain disciples. But what if the person who had humiliated the Maoshan inner sect was actually a member of Mao Mountain? Moreover, he was someone who was destined to bring glory to Mao Mountain. It was just like how Zhang Tianyi had brought the Celestial Master sect to Dragon Tiger Mountain. Dragon Tiger Mountain and Mao Mountain were actually on the same level. In terms of heritage, background, and heritage, Mao Mountain was not inferior to Dragon Tiger Mountain. The only difference was that Dragon Tiger Mountain had Zhang Tianyi. But now, she felt that Mao Mountain had a hope of having another Zhang Tianyi. No, he had more advantages than Zhang Tianyi. He was younger, and he could even lead Mao Mountain until the next spiritual tide. Of course, the premise was that he could resolve his grudge with Mao Mountain. But to perfected Qingping, Chen Zhao's heritage was inextricably linked to Mao Mountain. Even Chen Zhao did not deny it. Moreover, she did not plan to pursue the matter with Zhang Ding. As long as Chen Zhao was willing to admit that he was from the Qingyi sect, she would be able to get him to admit that he was from the Maoshan sect. Then, she could ask Chen Zhao to inherit Mao Mountain's heritage, and it would be much easier. Perfected Qingping's cultivation was not comparable to Zhang Tianyi's. In fact, her current cultivation did not truly belong to her. But in terms of political wisdom, she was not inferior to Zhang Tianyi. In the past few decades, Zhang Ding had not only caused trouble for the Maoshan sect, but she had resolved all of them. Zhang Ding was the face of the Maoshan sect. But in terms of power and influence, Zhang Ding might not be able to compare to perfected Qingping. To perfected Qingping, as long as he could get Chen Zhao, any compromise would be acceptable. Because this person's value was simply too great. Take the current Zhang Tianyi as a comparison. All the organizations and departments wanted Zhang Tianyi to have his name on them. What special chairman? What honorary member? What grand elder? As long as Zhang Tianyi nodded, they would be willing to sell their own organizations. Chen Zhao could vaguely sense perfected Qingping's intentions. Of course, Chen Zhao would not say anything. Chen Zhao did not have a good impression of the Maoshan sect. After all, not long ago, they had been at each other's throats. Moreover, Chen Zhao had destroyed one of their pillars. With such a huge grudge, it would be strange if they could really let go of it. So Chen Zhao had been avoiding contact with perfected Qingping. On one hand, he had gotten his revenge, and the spell on him had been removed. So he did not want to have any conflict with the Maoshan sect now. And he did not want to have any relationship with the Maoshan sect. So the best choice was to keep his current distance. Chen Zhao had been paying attention to the changes in his external and internal worlds. Chen Zhao felt that he still did not fully understand his internal worlds. The abilities of his internal worlds did not seem to be limited to what they were currently. They did not only make his spiritual power skyrocket. They did not just increase his spiritual power. But the feeling was too vague. Chen Zhao was like a blind man groping an elephant. At the same time, he was a lone pioneer. With no one to guide him, he could only find his way forward. Chapter 27:19. Something's wrong. There seem to be more demons here, Zhang Tianyi said with a frown. Zhang Tianyi said with a frown. At the same time, he casually flicked his hand, sending out a straight line. More than 10 demonized demons were instantly vaporized. Spiritual Master Wushu and Spiritual Master Qingping felt it too. It wouldn't be strange if the leaking demonic qi had infected the demons here. But the problem was that there were too many demons here. They even exceeded the number of demons in the Qinling Mountains. Moreover, most of them had been baptized by modern society. How could they gather here in large numbers and wait for the 1,000-year-old demon to transform them into another person? More and more fiendish demons appeared in front of them. The three finally felt something was wrong. Why do I feel like we've fallen into the 1,000-year-old corpse's trap like the ancestor from 1,000 years ago? That's impossible, Spiritual Master Qingping said with a frown. No one can break the seal. Maybe no one can break the seal, but it's not impossible to undo the seal in advance. At least we all know what to do, Zhang Tianyi said. And we don't need to do it too much in advance, just a few days in advance. Doesn't this mean that we're going to face that old monster? Moreover, it's an old monster in his prime? Or even more terrifying than we imagined. This means that the situation we're facing is more dangerous than we imagined. Someone's helping that old monster escape. It's okay. If the situation changes, he'll take the blame and we'll retreat first, Zhang Tianyi muttered. Old Zhang, I heard you. Although Chen Zhao was more than 20 meters away, he could still hear old Zhang. Chen Zhao was more than 20 meters away, but he couldn't withstand the spiritual power he released. The slightest movement in the surroundings was basically imprinted in his mind like a light bulb. Compared to the small world in the past, his senses were sharper. Suddenly, Chen Zhao reached out and grabbed Feng Ye's shoulder. Feng Ye was stunned. What? The next moment, Feng Ye felt Chen Zhao pull her violently. She took a few steps back and fell on her butt. Then Chen Zhao walked in front and replied indifferently, "To save your life." You. Feng Ye stood up, wanting to argue with him. Just then, Chen Zhao raised his voice again. Old Zhang, look after your disciple. I won't be so kind as to save her again next time. As an elder, you should act like one. I asked you to take care of my disciples and granddisciples because I wanted you to set an example for them. At this time, 2 pitch-black demons appeared in front of Zhang Tianyi. Although there was no such thing as good or bad power in this world, the demons that were eroded by the demonic aura were basically no longer on good terms. It was as if his brain had been filled with gutter oil. Basically, he had to say goodbye to reason. Ouch. I've absorbed some devil qi into my body. I can't take it anymore. Enlightened Wu Su, enlightened Qingping, you guys take over, Zhang Tianyi suddenly shouted. Taoist Wushu and Taoist Qingping rolled their eyes at Zhang Tianyi. With Zhang Tianyi's cultivation, even if he were to inhale it as oxygen, it would only be an aerobic exercise for him, let alone a little bit of demonic qi. The only ones who could be infected by the devil qi were Feng Ye and the other 3 children. Anyway, the few of them could basically absorb the devil qi as a trace element. After all, the demonic qi contained some spiritual components that were useful to their cultivation. At their level, they couldn't truly be invulnerable. But just relying on the devil qi was basically like sending food to them. It was just like how he devoured the 2 old demons, the giant dragon and Kunlai. The devil qi on the 2 old demons would basically turn ordinary people or cultivators black if they touched it. In the end, it was a feast for Chen Zhao. To be able to send so many demons here, including some foreign ones, it means that the person who let the 1,000-year-old corpse out of prison in advance has a strong identity and power. This is going to be troublesome. Enlightened Wu Su was also afraid of trouble, especially this time, which wasn't just any ordinary trouble. 1,000 years ago, the 1,000-year-old corpse had caused 2 deaths and 1 injury to the leaders of the 3 mountains. Moreover, it had rampaged through the spiritual world in the Central Plains and no one could stop it for decades. 1,000 years later, it would probably be even more difficult to deal with than 1,000 years ago. Of course, 1,000 years later wasn't the same as 1,000 years ago. After all, It was the end of the Tang dynasty 1,000 years ago. It was chaotic and the court was powerless. But now, it was peaceful and the 1,000-year-old corpse had appeared. If it did whatever it wanted, it would indeed bring about a lot of turmoil. But what about after the turmoil? No matter how strong the 1,000-year-old corpse was, it was still alone. Could it recruit soldiers and plot to usurp the throne? What a joke. It wasn't just ordinary people who were patriotic. Nowadays, demons were patriotic too. Who wants to play with you and usurp the throne? Therefore, the 1,000-year-old corpse couldn't be as unbridled as it was 1,000 years ago. What they had to do now was to make the turmoil smaller or extinguish it before it happened. Just then, Chen Zhao pinched his nose. The 3 old Taoist priests in front covered their mouths. They couldn't help it. There was an extremely strong corpse aura in front of them. What's that smell? Does it smell nice? Fengya sniffed and asked in confusion. That's the smell of the corpse fragrance pill mixed with corpse aura. Chen Zhao glanced at Fengya. Do you think it smells good? If you smell too much, livor mortis will appear on your body. Usually, zombies that awaken in the wild use corpse fragrance to trap living creatures. Oh, it can also cause arthritis. Chen Zhao explained enthusiastically. Fengya and the other 3 immediately covered their noses. It's not as bad as he says. You're all talented people. Don't be scared by his words, Zhang Tianyi reminded them from the front. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief and glared at Chen Zhao. At most, there's a small chance that you'll die from the corpse poison. It's not that troublesome, Zhang Tianyi added. Zhang Tianyi looked around. I want to see if there's anything special about a 1,000-year-old demon's corpse. Roar! Suddenly, a white figure pounced out of the darkness. Sizzle! Before the white figure could get close to Zhang Tianyi, it was struck in the head by a purple electric arc and fell to the ground. It was a bald humanoid creature with short white hair all over its body. Black blood spurted out of the exploded head and emitted a strong stench. Just then, more white-haired creatures appeared in the darkness. Are they white-haired zombies? Spiritual Master Qingping asked. They're much faster than white-haired zombies. Zhang Tianyi shook his head. They're almost as fast as bronze zombies. They're just not as strong, but the corpse poison they carry is even stronger than bronze zombies. Chapter 27:20. Zombies were divided into different levels too. The weakest were the living corpses, followed by iron corpses, bronze corpses, silver corpses, and gold corpses. Of course, there was another type of mutation after the living corpses, the white-furred zombies. As for the zombies with the title of metal, they were divided into different levels. There was a clear difference in strength. Moreover, it could also be refined continuously to reach a higher level of zombies. However, the disadvantage was that they weren't easy to refine and their numbers were limited. The biggest advantage of white-furred zombies was that they could be mass-produced. As long as one could master the mutation method, they could be mass-produced. Almost all the major sects had their own techniques too. Even normal cultivators who knew a bit about refining corpses could develop the white-furred zombie technique. Therefore, there were many types of white-furred zombies in the Huaxia supernatural world. They all had their own specialties. This was what Zhang Tianyi had said earlier. He wanted to see how different the white-furred zombies made by the 1,000-year-old corpse were. However, there were so many white-furred zombies here that it made one's hair stand on end. Even Zhang Tianyi, Spiritual Master Wushu, and Spiritual Master Qingping were extremely busy. With their strength, although the white-furred zombies were powerful, they couldn't pose a threat to them no matter how many there were. Although they couldn't pose a threat, they could cause trouble. Zhang Tianyi could kill dozens of white-furred zombies with one lightning bringer. However, he couldn't kill the white-furred zombies before him at all. The corpses used by the white-furred zombies aren't from the present, Zhang Tianyi said. They look like ancient soldiers. There are some marks on them. It's the zombie soldiers used to suppress the 1,000-year-old corpse, Spiritual Master Qingping said. Spiritual Master Qingping said, these corpse soldiers were collected by the imperial court over the past few decades. There were 200,000 corpse soldiers in total. They were then refined into corpse soldiers by the ancestors of Maoshan Mountain. Then, they gathered the souls of the soldiers and worked with the heavenly spirit killing array. Only then did they suppress the ancient corpse for 1,000 years. Taoist Master Qing Ping looked at these corpse soldiers with a complicated look in his eyes. But after the 1,000-year-old corpse was unsealed, these corpse soldiers that were used to suppress it were also the first to suffer revenge. Now, they have become the 1,000-year-old corpse's puppets. 200,000? It's so bitter. Zhang Tianyi frowned. If they had enough time, any one of them could defeat the 200,000 zombie soldiers. However, the current situation didn't allow them to delay. Chen Zhao suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the three people fighting before him. I can sense that the corpse chi on these corpse soldiers that were killed seems to be guided by some kind of power. The three of them were stunned for a moment and exchanged glances. Just now when they killed these corpse soldiers, the scene was a bit chaotic, so they didn't think too much about it. But after Chen Zhao's reminder, they realized that the corpse aura of the corpse soldiers they had killed seemed to be guided by some kind of power. Zhang Tianyi was shocked. Not good. This is the place where the coffins fall. 9 meridians burial of bones, heaven and earth burial of souls. Enlightened Master Wu Su and Enlightened Master Qing Ping's expressions changed. Chen Zhao, is there any way to completely destroy the corpse chi? No, Chen Zhao answered directly. At the same time, Chen Zhao gave Zhang Tianyi a questioning look. That 1,000-year-old corpse wants to give us a taste of our own medicine. Our ancestor sealed him for 1,000 years, and now he wants to seal us. The corpse soldiers we kill will emit corpse aura. This is also the place where the coffins fall, so the corpse aura will gather and not disperse. The 1,000-year-old corpse wants to use the corpse aura and the coffins to form a 9-vein soul burial formation. Chen Zhao thought about it. After all, he didn't want to be sealed. Moreover, this 9-vein soul burial formation wasn't something good just from its name. Chen Zhao raised his right palm and controlled the surrounding corpse aura to gather in his palm. Can you tell what method he's using? Perfected Wushu asked in a low voice. Perfected Qingping and Zhang Tianyi both shook their heads. This move was very strange. Chen Zhao didn't use any magic either. You guys continue killing. I'll control the corpse aura. Chen Zhao wasn't using any method at all. He was using the power of the small world. He was using the power of the small world to forcibly attract the corpse aura. Although the corpse aura was being guided and controlled, it was still nothing compared to the power of Chen Zhao's small world. Compared to the power of Chen Zhao's small world, this guiding power was nothing. It was like a tug-of-war between an adult and a baby. The two weren't on the same level at all. If the opponent wasn't outside the range of his small world, Chen Zhao would have pulled the opponent over along with himself. The corpse aura gathered in Chen Zhao's palm and formed a turbid, solid gray bead. Soon, the surrounding corpse aura was sucked dry. Chen Zhao clearly didn't plan on stopping just like that. Chen Zhao felt that the small world wasn't only effective on the outside. It could even affect the white-haired zombies. Chen Zhao realized that he could actually suck out the corpse aura from the zombies' bodies. Immediately, the white-haired zombies fell down in rows. It was a spectacular scene. Ha! Chen Zhao glanced at Zhang Tianyi and the others. Chen Zhao wanted to see if this would work on Zhang Tianyi and the others. However, the small world was immediately blocked by the aura of Zhang Tianyi and the others. Chen Zhao pursed his lips and looked at Fang Ya and the others. He planned on trying the same thing on them. The four of them suddenly felt a terrifying power pass through their bodies. The result was the same. Their spiritual power blocked Chen Zhao's small world. Chen Zhao's small world could tear them into pieces instantly. However, he couldn't suck out all their energy like the white-haired zombies. Zhang Tianyi and the others turned to look at Chen Zhao. They didn't expect Chen Zhao to have such a killer move. In an instant, he killed almost 200,000 white-haired zombies. Chen Zhao put away the bead condensed from corpse aura. The bead was less than 1 centimeter in diameter, but it weighed 1,000,000 tons. It was condensed from the purest corpse aura. 9 guys with heavy corpse aura are coming, Chen Zhao warned. Actually, they already felt it without Chen Zhao's reminder. Not long after, the 9 fellows exuding corpse aura appeared in front of them. Chen Zhao wanted to use the same trick again, but they were also protected by spiritual power. Chen Zhao was surprised. These 9 should be zombies, right? Zombies were corpses, which were dead things. They shouldn't have intelligence, let alone spiritual power, right? These 9 zombies were countless times stronger than the soldiers before in terms of aura and size. Moreover, they were all wearing armor, just like the generals of ancient times. Qing Ping narrowed his eyes and looked at the 9 zombies. 9 refinements golden body. Although spiritual master Qing Ping wasn't from the Black Cloth sect, but Mao Mountain was the authority in this area. Qing Ping himself also knew a few strange corpse refining techniques. Therefore, he immediately realized that the 9 zombies were all using the forbidden technique, 9 refined golden body. Careful. These zombies are extremely strong. They can't be attacked by water or fire, and the 5 elements can't be destroyed. Their bodies are indestructible. You can only destroy them with spells outside of the 5 elements. Chapter 27-21. To Zhang Tianyi, perfected Wushu, and perfected Qingping, these 9 zombies were already very troublesome enemies. They weren't powerless, but they wouldn't be as relaxed as before. I'll take care of one first, perfected Qingping shouted. Cyclic coffin. A cyclic coffin suddenly appeared under one of the zombies' feet. The zombie was placed inside and the coffin closed. Heavy knocking sounds could be heard coming from the bronze coffin, but they couldn't break it open. The cyclic coffin slowly sank into the ground. Perfected Qingping pressed his palm into the air. The cyclic coffin didn't make any more sounds. Enlightened Master Wu Su tossed out a square seal. He'd thought that the seal was used to smash people. But after it left perfected Wushu's hand, dozens of beams of white light shot out. The white light instantly pierced through the 2 zombies in front of him, leaving thousands of holes. Zhang Tianyi wasn't any weaker than them. Chains shot out from the darkness one after another, binding the 3 zombies. Then, he directed lightning to hit the zombies along the chains. The 3 zombies were electrocuted into charcoal. In 10 minutes, 9 extremely powerful zombies had been destroyed. Of course, not all of them had been destroyed. 3 of them had been suppressed by perfected Qingping. She clearly had an idea about the 3 zombies. She planned to take them home for research. At the moment, on a mountain shrouded in darkness, a few figures appeared. 9-tailed fox. Are those the leaders of Kunlun Mountain, Mao Mountain, and Dragon Tiger Mountain? Yes. Tamamo no Mei nodded. She was just curious why Mao Mountain had sent perfected Qingping instead of Zhang Ding. It was a little different from her plan. But it wouldn't affect her plan too much. But Tamamo no Mei realized that there was someone else among the group. Qin Zhao? Why was he here? Tamamo no Mei didn't react at all. She didn't show any emotion. According to our agreement, lend me your sword. Mr. Kuniya, with your cultivation, there is no need for you to borrow my sword, Tamamo no Mei said with a light smile. The cultivation of those 3 people is not weak, especially the Taoist priest from Kunlun Mountain and Longhu Mountain. Compared to their grandmaster 1,000 years ago, they are much stronger. Even from 10 miles away, I can feel the threat that they bring to me. Moreover, they should have already felt that the plan and trap that I made earlier will probably fail. In the end, we still have to use our true strength to decide the outcome. Those 3 people are not weak, especially the Taoist priest from Kunlun Mountain and Longhu Mountain. Tamamo no Mei smiled as she took out her Kusanagi sword, but she didn't directly hand it over to the Kunyaku-san. Mr. Jun Fong, I can lend you the sword, but aren't you going to follow our agreement and lend me the item? I never go back on my word, Tamamo no Mei said calmly. But before that, you need to help me kill those 3 human cultivators. I'm afraid I can't, Tamamo no Mei said calmly. My cultivation is shallow, and I'm a fox demon, so I'm afraid of thunder spells. Those 3 cultivators all have extremely powerful thunder spells. If I rashly get involved in the battle, I'm afraid that dying would be the least of my worries. If I'm not careful, I'll be destroyed in both body and soul. Humph. Mr. Jun Fong snorted coldly. He was very dissatisfied with Tamamo no Mei's decision to stay out of it. Tamamo no Mei's so-called fear of thunder spells was just an excuse. Ordinary fox demons were afraid of thunder spells because they didn't have a human body, but they still had a human nature. They were a different kind of demon, so they were rejected by the heaven and earth lock. Every 500 years of cultivation, a fox demon would experience a lightning tribulation. Therefore, the fear of thunder spells was imprinted in the blood of fox demons. Tamamo no Mei was different. She was a fox of the Green Mountains. She was born with 9 tails, so she was a different kind of fox demon. She could even control thunder spells. How could she be afraid of thunder spells? Therefore, Tamamanome's words were just excuses. Mr. Junfeng didn't believe Tamamanome's words. Of course, Tamamanome didn't expect her excuses to fool Mr. Junfeng. She was just making up an excuse to show that she didn't want to participate in the battle. If Mr. Junfeng could show his ability to suppress everyone, she wouldn't mind. She didn't mind adding icing on the cake so that Mr. Junfeng could win more easily. However, Zhang Tianyi, perfected Wushu, and perfected Qingping were the strongest team in China's supernatural world. Moreover, it could be seen from Mr. Junfeng's fear of the three. Even he didn't have the confidence to win. He had also neglected Chen Zhao, the person that even Tamamonome was afraid of. When she broke out of the seal, she had already lost to Chen Zhao once. She hadn't been in a good state at that time, but a loss was a loss. Now, Tamamanome's cultivation had completely recovered. However, she could feel that Chen Zhao's cultivation had improved since they last met in Istanbul. It even gave her a very bad feeling. Actually, Tamamanome had obtained some things from the Kusanagi sword recently. Not only had her spiritual power completely recovered, but her cultivation had also improved. She had originally thought that she wouldn't lose so easily against Chen Zhao. However, when she met Chen Zhao again, that kind of self-confidence had already disappeared. She only felt an inexplicable fear. The feeling that Chen Zhao gave her was that he was more dangerous than ever before. It was obvious that while she was growing, Chen Zhao was also growing. Moreover, he was growing faster than her. Therefore, she was only willing to follow the original agreement and lend the Kusanagi sword to Mr. Junfeng. At the moment, the Kusanagi sword was only a sharp sword to her. After learning the secret of the Kusanagi sword, she didn't need it as a weapon anymore. Therefore, even if Mr. Junfeng wasn't willing to return the Kusanagi sword, she didn't care. Moreover, she didn't believe that Mr. Junfeng would fall out with her for a sword that was only sharp. Ha! Suddenly, Mr. Junfeng looked at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao, who was several kilometers away, also felt someone's gaze. Separated by the vast darkness of the night, their eyes met. Who is that? Mr. Junfeng realized that he had forgotten someone. The person wasn't old, but he made Mr. Junfeng feel a little uncomfortable. Tamamana frowned and shook her head. I don't know him. His cultivation is extraordinary. His eyes are sharp, and his senses are extremely acute. He hides his aura. Even I can't sense his strength. He can't be an ordinary person. There are many masters in the world, Tamamanome said indifferently. Especially among the humans, there are countless hidden masters. It's not strange to see a few of them occasionally. Mr. Junfeng shook his head and said, How can a hidden master like him be hidden? If you think it's inappropriate, why don't you leave now and think about it in the future? Junfeng shook his head. You've said it before. Now that the world is at peace, and it's a golden age, the imperial court has the extraordinary power to suppress everything. If I can't cripple the leaders of Kunlun, Longhu, and Maoshan's sects, I'll have to face eternal pursuit in the future. Chapter 27-22. Mr. Jun's idea was simple. For one, he didn't know much about the current era. What he knew so far came from Tamamo no Mei and her subordinates. What Tamamo no Mei told him should be true. After all, he would find out as soon as he left the forest. Therefore, it was meaningless to hide it from him. Therefore, he had a rough understanding of the power of the mortal world. If he came out, the imperial court wouldn't be able to tolerate him. Therefore, Mr. Jun hoped to cripple Kunlun Mountain, Mao Mountain, and Longhu Mountain, which were most likely to pose a threat to him. As long as he dealt with the strongest cultivators of the three mountains, they would be the top 3 cultivators of China. Then, even if the imperial court hunted him down in the future, he would at least have an easier time. Tamamo no Mei's help was a plan that had been made 1,000 years ago. At that time, Mr. Jun felt that he wasn't strong enough to do whatever he wanted. Being sealed by the cultivators of Mao Mountain and the Central Plains was only part of his plan. Before he was sealed, he made a trip to Japan. He found the sealed Tamamo no Mei. At that time, Tamamo no Mei was the only person he could think of who could cooperate with him and had the qualifications to do so. He helped Tamamo no Mei remove the seal in advance, and Tamamo no Mei needed to do the same for him after he removed the seal. Just like that, the two peerless monsters reached an agreement. Even though it had been 1,000 years, it seemed that the two monsters kept their promises, putting aside their respective plans and schemes. In terms of helping the other party remove the seal in advance, they had done it. Mr. June did this because he was worried that the cultivators would set up a trap in advance. If there was a formation, he could set up a targeted trap in advance. He might be able to seal Mr. June again. He had to remove the seal in advance and make preparations in advance. Only then would he be able to take the initiative. However, there seemed to be some problems with his preparations. First of all, the three great cultivators of the three mountains were all more powerful than he had imagined. Moreover, the inheritance of 1,000 years seemed to have reached them, making them even more powerful. They were even more powerful than the cultivators of the three mountains 1,000 years ago. In particular, Zhang Tianyi and enlightened Master Wushu gave him a feeling that the cultivators of the three mountains 1,000 years ago weren't a threat. As for the young man outside of his plan, he gave him a very bad feeling. It wasn't just a threat. It was also dangerous. Jun Feng furrowed his eyebrows. That man likely cultivates an essence soul dharma spell. It's very powerful. Mr. Jun Feng sensed a faint mental power enveloping his surroundings. Because the mental energy was too far away, it was hard to detect. Moreover, due to the protection of his body, his mental power could not penetrate his body to investigate. However, he was still able to release his mental power from such a distance. That was enough to make him fearful. Essence Soul Dharma spells? Tamamo no Mei's eyes flashed. Essence Soul Dharma spells were actually mental spells. She denied knowing Chen Zhao. But she could not forget Chen Zhao's cultivation system. Chen Zhao was clearly an enhancer. Why did Jun Feng-san say that it was a spirit type? Her senses weren't as sharp as Jun Bang-san's. However, she knew that Mr. Jun must have made a mistake. After all, she had fought Chen Zhao before. Therefore, she wouldn't mistake Chen Zhao's cultivation system. But now, Jun Bang-san was mistaken. So she had to reconsider their partnership. After all, even his enemy's power system was wrong. Their chances of winning would also become very slim. 1,000 years ago, you received an Essence Soul attack too, right? So, you should be immune to Essence Soul attacks now, right? Jun Feng shook his head and said, that depends on the level of the primordial spirit attack. This person's primordial spirit is so strong that I've never seen it before. If he uses some primordial spirit spell that I've never seen before, even I wouldn't dare to say that I can defeat him easily. Actually, ever since he'd mastered the demon body, he had a passive skill. As long as it didn't kill him, it would make him stronger. At least, for most spells, as long as it wasn't an instant death spell. Every time, he would increase his magic resistance by different amounts. In the past few decades, he'd caused havoc in the Central Plains. It was to attract cultivators to attack him. Then, his resistance would also increase. However, there was a limit to this resistance. It wasn't absolute immunity. 1,000 years ago, there weren't any outstanding cultivators with Essence Soul spells. There were even fewer who specialized in Essence Soul cultivation. Mr. Jun Feng looked into the distance in the darkness. He might be a good choice. He can help me make up for what I lack in Essence Soul. This person's aura is thick and fierce, Tamamo reminded. He looks more like a strong man. It should be because his Essence Soul is thick and solid, Mr. Jun Feng said. A strong man can't reach such a level. Even a demon can't, let alone a human. Tamamo gave up on correcting Mr. Jun Feng. Since Mr. Jun Feng's personality was like this, she obviously wouldn't meddle. After all, he was stubborn and believed that what he thought was right. He wouldn't listen to other people's suggestions or opinions. Only after suffering would he understand what was wrong. However, the enemy he was facing was Chen Zhao. Would Chen Zhao allow him to correct his mistakes? Tamamo no Mei wasn't optimistic at all. After all, even if Chen Zhao was willing to correct his mistakes, Zhang Tianyi and the others probably wouldn't be happy either. Thus, Tamamo was even more determined in her strategy. She would just be a spectator and not interfere with the battle at all. Her main force was making a fool of herself. Was she going to die? At the same time, Zhang Tianyi, Spiritual Master Wushu, and Spiritual Master Qingping suddenly stopped. Do you feel it? There's a huge evil in that direction. 2 auras. No, 2 of them are the strongest. There are 3 weaker ones. Among the 2 enormous presences, one must be the 1,000-year ancient corpse, but who is the other one? It's unfamiliar. Tamamo no Mei, the 9-tailed fox. She went to Japan to cause trouble in the past and was sealed. She only escaped last year. I fought her once. Not only did Chen Zhao feel it, but he could also see Tamamo no Mei through his spiritual power. He could also see the 3 unfamiliar demons behind Tamamo no Mei. They were all very strong. In terms of power, they were already at the peak of the Shangqing realm. Chen Zhao also noticed the owner of the other aura. It was very strange. It was like a human but not a human, like a demon but not a demon. Zhang Tianyi naturally knew that Chen Zhao and Tamamo had fought before. That was also the first time he'd schemed against Chen Zhao and roasted him over a fire. How strong is Tamamo no Mei? She'd just been unsealed, so I can't tell how strong she is. I won by a bit, but it's been so long. She's probably recovered to her peak. She's probably stronger than that 1,000-year-old corpse. Chapter 27-23. Grandmaster. Leave that Tamamo no Mei to us. We can stall her, Fengya said firmly. Her eyes shone with confidence. The other 3 had the same look and determination. Zhang Tianyi, Taoist Wushu, and Taoist Qingping glanced at each other. Taoist Qingping suddenly laughed. Celestial Teacher Zhang. You're indeed extraordinary. Even a junior like you has such vigor and courage. Looks like we're lagging behind. We didn't have such courage when we were young, Taoist Wushu said, chuckling. Of course, Zhang Tianyi could tell that Taoist Wushu and Taoist Qingping's words were full of mockery. Where did you get the confidence to think you can stop Tamamo no Mei? Zhang Tianyi felt that his 4 disciples were a bit arrogant, but he still admired their courage. He was rather peaceful and didn't want to destroy their enthusiasm and courage. Fengya and the others exchanged glances. Fengya walked up and said, since he can deal with Tamamo no Mei alone, we should be fine if we work together. Ha! Ha! Chen Zhao rubbed his nose and chuckled at Zhang Tianyi. Zhang Tianyi almost lost his balance. His head spun. Fuck, he shouldn't have let them spar with Chen Zhao. No. He didn't even let them meet. Chen Zhao was poisonous. It had only been half a day and his disciples had been poisoned. Their brains weren't enough to explain the severity of the problem. It was like mercury poisoning in the brain. They'd actually exchanged one move with Chen Zhao. Then, Fengya succeeded in one move and defeated Chen Zhao. This was the reason why they could deal with Tamamo no Mei. Yes, it was reasonable and convincing. Taoist Wushu and Taoist Qingping also turned their heads to avoid Zhang Tianyi's awkward expression. Right now, Zhang Tianyi was thinking about finding a corner with no one and burying these 4 idiotic youths. That would be an insult to the sect. This wasn't the place to use your confidence. Zhang Tianyi felt stifled. Just then, 2 auras rushed toward him. The darkness and vegetation before him were instantly pierced, forming a path of fire. A man and a woman walked through the path of fire. Behind the man and woman, there were 4 figures that clearly had the appearance or body shape of monsters. It was not difficult to identify the origins of the 4 demons. A man in a kimono had his right hand resting on the hilt of a katana hanging from his waist. Demon blade. Chen Zhao was no stranger to him. After all, he had once robbed one of Tamamo no Mei's old subordinates, the white-face Oni. The devil blade incarnation in front of him had a murderous aura and a sharp chill that were not inferior to white-face Guei Che. It seemed like there were quite a number of powerful demon swords in Japan. Chen Zhao had thought that the white-face demon was one of the best Japanese swordsmen. He did not expect that there would be another equally strong devil blade. On the left of the devil blade incarnation was a white-clothed woman wearing a witch's attire. The woman's eyes were very beautiful. Her hair was long and straight, and there was a faint smile on her face. The aura on his body was not chaotic like that of a demon. Instead, it had a hint of friendliness. He was also from Japan. However, the aura of that woman was the opposite of the woman in black standing on her left. The woman in black had strange patterns on her face. Her body was hidden under a black robe, and something unsettling seemed to be brewing inside. What a strange woman. Chen Zhao looked at her a few more times. As for the last one, Chen Zhao was somewhat familiar with his state. It should be the amalgamation of countless souls controlled by a powerful consciousness. On the other hand, the leaders, Tamamo no Mei and Mr. Jun Fong, looked ordinary. At least, Fong Ya and the other three young people could not sense Tamamo no Mei and Mr. Jun Fong's auras. Therefore, their senses were not as direct as the four great demons behind them. The two sides did not attack immediately. After all, they were all people with status and reputation. Therefore, it was necessary to use their eyes to express their respect for each other. Of course, this would only last for a moment. Then, it was time to analyze the situation. 4 teams against 2, Chen Zhao said, chuckling. Looks like we have a higher chance of winning. Feng Ya and the others could not help but roll their eyes. None of the opponents were easy to deal with. Was victory calculated like this? Moreover, the opponents also seemed to have 6 people, while they should have 8. No matter what, the 4 of them should be included, right? Ha! Victory is not calculated like this. Mr. Jun Fong smiled faintly. At the same time, he turned to Tamamo no Mei. How many can you take down? Tamamo no Mei was speechless. She really did not want to get involved. I can take down any one of the 3 Taoists. I won't lose before you decide the winner. She was not hiding her strength. Instead, she had come to this conclusion after seriously comparing their strengths. Mr. Jun Fong was not surprised by Tamamo no Mei's answer. Instead, it was reasonable. Then can your 4 subordinates contribute? They can hold one of them for 15 minutes. Tamamo no Mei looked at Chen Zhao. Except for that one. Mr. Jun Fong calculated silently. Tamamo no Mei would hold one of them, and her 4 subordinates would hold another for 15 minutes. He had to deal with the remaining 2 and make at least one of them lose the ability to fight in 15 minutes. Otherwise, the 4 cannon fodder would have been dealt with in a quarter of an hour, and the pressure on him would have been even greater. Tamamo no Mei, you're also a monster from the Central Plains. Although you're not active in China, don't forget where your roots are. Spiritual Master Wu Su was not in a hurry to attack. Instead, he planned to instigate a rebellion before the battle. If he succeeded, everyone would be happy. If he failed, he would not lose anything. Spiritual Master Wu Su, I have my own goal, so I won't bother you. Since you recognize me, why don't we fight? Success and failure are determined by victory and defeat. This is the ancient common sense. Spiritual Master Wu Su shook his head. That's your strategy. It's not in our interest. So you want to get cold feet? Tamamo no Mei chuckled at Spiritual Master Wu Su. Spiritual Master Wu Su was not stupid. Such simple provocation was useless against old things like him. Even the young and energetic Chen Zhao would not fall for it. Spiritual Master Wu Su, this battle is unavoidable. Whether you want to fight or not, it's not up to you. We have to fight, but it's not just a simple fight. Spiritual Master Wu Su did not want to be held back by Tamamo no Mei. Suddenly, Zhang Tianyi yelled, "Done!" Done? What was done? Chen Zhao was confused. What had happened? Weren't they still discussing the competition? Why did you suddenly say done? Chapter 27-24. Unexpected opponents appeared on both sides. Mr. Jun's side was obviously Tamamo. On Zhang Tianyi's side was Chen Zhao. The seemingly friendly meeting between the two sides broke in an instant. The first to attack was Sword Genius. Sword Genius flashed like a ghost and appeared before Feng Ya. At that moment, Feng Ya felt that the cold blade was only 0.1 centimeters away from her head. Just at this critical moment, 2 fingers pinched the edge of the demon's blade. Sword Genius was also dazed for a moment. He looked at Chen Zhao in shock. At that moment, he wasn't thinking about how to counterattack, but how to retreat. At the same time, Tamamo's other general, Thousand Spirits, the amalgamation of countless souls. He attacked. His first choice was to help Sword Genius. Thousand Spirits opened his mouth and spat out countless evil spirits. The evil spirits charged at Chen Zhao like a wave of dirty water. Chen Zhao punched Devil Blade with the back of his hand. Clang, with the sound of metal clashing, Sword Genius was sent flying. As countless broken blades flew around, the Devil's Blade suffered a fatal injury. His demonic aura spread out uncontrollably. Chen Zhao turned around and looked at thousand spirits. A wave of lava and dark serum rose under his feet and charged at the evil spirit wave. The evil spirit wave was instantly destroyed by the dark lava. The dark magma continued to rush towards thousand spirits with unstoppable force. Thousand spirits wanted to reorganize his defense. But Tamamo reached out and pulled him back. "Idiot, don't fight him head-on." Chen Zhao snorted and lifted his finger. A red and black blade split out of the dark lava and shot towards Tamamo. Tamamo quickly dodged, but she was still one step too late. Her right arm, along with thousand souls that she was pulling, were chopped off. In an instant, the dark lava swallowed thousand spirits. Thousand spirits didn't even have time to struggle. He disappeared into the dark lava without a sound. Tamamo snorted and flew higher into the sky. She looked down angrily at Chen Zhao. "Cleanse your sins and summon you to rebirth." The witch held the soul summoning spell and waved it lightly. The spell released purple mana. It formed a gigantic purple sphere that enveloped her and another bewitching woman whose entire body was covered in purple patterns. The purple sphere blocked the dark magma, but it didn't last long. This was because cracks had already appeared on the purple sphere when it came into contact with the dark lava. Tamamo, who was in the sky, shouted. Her body transformed into her original form, and a 100-meter-long nine-tailed fox appeared in front of everyone. The nine-tailed fox slammed its claws on the ground. A huge gap appeared between Chen Zhao and the witch. The dark magma poured into the chasm, slowing down the impact of the dark magma on Miko-sama. At this time, Feng Ya and the others were already dumbfounded. In just a few short seconds, Chen Xiaobei's eyes widened. In just a few seconds. For them, it might be the charging time of an intermediate spell. But Chen Zhao, Tamamo no Mei, and the four monsters had already fought a few rounds. Even a great demon from the enemy side was heavily injured and 1,000 souls had been devoured. Chen Zhao did not attack again. Instead, he stared at Tamamo no Mei. The Tamamo no Mei in front of him was much smaller than the first time he saw her. But the demonic aura on her body was more than 10 times stronger than before. The 9 tails behind her swayed. Every time they swung, the surrounding spiritual qi would be stirred up. Perfected Qingping, perfected Wushu, and Zhang Tianyi also tensed up. As long as Mr. Junfeng attacked, they would immediately attack too. At this point, there was no need for any schemes or traps. Only when the winner was decided could the result be known. It didn't matter who was righteous or evil. The winner naturally represented justice. Mr. Junfeng snickered. He didn't plan on continuing the confrontation. To him, stalling for time wouldn't do him any good. So, Mr. Junfeng attacked first. Suddenly, a twisted bloody arm stretched out from Mr. Junfeng's left shoulder. The arm was even larger than Mr. Junfeng's body. At the same time, it emitted a frightening demonic aura. Demonic body. Zhang Tianyi's expression froze. The 3 cultivators attacked at the same time. Perfected Wushu quickly performed a hand seal. All the spiritual qi in the area was guided by his magic power. Divine Wood Realm Sea. The surrounding sea of trees seemed to have come to life. The roots grew rapidly like wriggling dragons that swept towards Mr. Junfeng. The demonic arm behind Mr. Junfeng slammed the ground with all its might, creating a circle of black flames. The black flames instantly burned the surrounding roots into ashes. But this Divine Wood Realm Sea wasn't an ordinary technique. If it could be easily destroyed, perfected Wushu would have retired long ago. Although the black flames burned a large number of roots, more of them swept towards Mr. Junfeng. Finally, the first root wrapped around Mr. Junfeng's demonic arm. Mr. Junfeng's demonic arm tore down with all its might. The root was instantly torn apart. Even more tendrils wrapped themselves around Jun Bangsan's entire body. Swords! Zhang Tianyi shouted. Hundreds of divine weapons appeared in the sky. Go! Zhang Tianyi pointed at Mr. Junfeng. Hundreds of divine weapons pierced into the roots in an instant. In the next instant, the roots exploded. Mr. Junfeng flew out of the explosion unscathed. However, he had an additional demonic arm. One of the arms held a strange-looking long sword. Chen Zhao recognized the sword in Mr. Junfeng's hand. It was the national treasure of Japan, the Kusanagi sword. Back then, He'd stolen the Yasukani no Magatama and Tamamonome had stolen the Kusanagi sword. However, the Kusanagi sword was a bit strange. Chen Zhao didn't know if it was an illusion, but it seemed like the Kusanagi sword was missing something. Chen Zhao looked at Tamamonome. Are you sure you want to work with this failure that looks like it came from an underfunded biochemistry lab? It doesn't have a future. Tamamonome glanced at Mr. Junfeng and said, I've never seen Mr. Junfeng's real body. It does look cheap now, but Mr. Junfeng's power is real. Even you might not be able to win. Chen Zhao had seen many lab products. At least half of them were much more beautiful than the thing in front of him. Mr. Junfeng felt a little stifled. He'd been sealed for 2,000 years, but his intelligence was still there. So, he roughly understood the main idea of Chen Zhao and Tamamonome's conversation. They were just complaining about his poor appearance. Mr. Junfeng? Zhang Tianyi narrowed his eyes and looked at Mr. Junfeng. I didn't expect it to be the famous immortal Su Fu. Hee. Fellow Taoist, you also know my common name? Chapter 27-25. Ha! In the past 5,000 years, it's basically impossible to find someone like Immortal Su who tricked an emperor into this realm. Therefore, Immortal Su is the #1 Taoist scammer. Hee. Mr. Junfeng chuckled as well. Sigh. Fellow Taoist, you're too kind. I'm an immortal, not a Taoist, so I don't deserve to be called the #1 Taoist scammer. Su Fu, also known as Junfeng, was the #1 scammer. He dared to trick and successfully trick the first emperor. Only this Su Fu. Great Immortal Su. Seeing that we're fated, why don't we make friends today? Let's each take a step back and say goodbye? Ha! Zhang Tianyi chuckled. We can make friends, but can you return the treasures you took from our 3 mountains 1,000 years ago? The 3 treasures have already merged with me. Seems like I can't make friends today. Mr. Junfeng's smile gradually faded. It's fine. The person we hired is best at dismantling all kinds of things, from buildings to human organs. There's nothing he can't dismantle. Mr. Junfeng looked at Chen Zhao. He could feel the dangerous feeling Chen Zhao gave him. This feeling was completely different from Zhang Tianyi, perfected Wushu, and perfected Qingping. Zhang Tianyi, perfected Wushu, and perfected Qingping were the best in the world. However, he knew most of their cultivation magic power, and even the spells they cultivated. It could even be said that he was familiar with them. Thus, he wasn't afraid of the 3. Even if they teamed up, Mr. Junfeng was confident he could defeat them. Only Chen Zhao made him feel threatened. Even now, he still hadn't figured out what power system Chen Zhao had. Chen Zhao glanced at Zhang Tianyi, then perfected Wushu, and perfected Qingping. I don't know why, but I suddenly feel like you guys are a hindrance here. Zhang Tianyi, perfected Wushu, perfected Qingping. It was an arrogant statement in the spiritual world of China and even the world. Basically, no person or group dared to say such things. Especially when the 3 of them were present at the same time. Zhang Tianyi chuckled. Chen Zhao, are you confident? I don't know. That Su guy hasn't used his full strength yet. Then shall we stall Tamamonome for you? No need. Chen Zhao shook his head. She's not in the way. Tamamonome's smile was filled with displeasure. Yep. She was very displeased. Chen Zhao, don't be too arrogant. Tamamonome said faintly. Her real body was in a pouncing posture. Her 9 tails were no longer swinging, but raised up high. Tamamonome grinned, her eyes emitting an ominous glint. Looks like I can't hold back anymore, Mr. Junfeng said calmly. Mr. Junfeng's body grew larger, and 2 more pairs of arms appeared on his back. His body also started to turn golden. In terms of quality, it was many times stronger than before. If the previous Jun Bangsan looked like a failed product from an underfunded biology lab, then Jun Bangsan was now a completely different person. In that case, the current Jun Bangsan was a pay-to-win boss. At the very least, his body was plated with a layer of gold. Chen Zhao's eyes suddenly turned red. Then a beam of red light shot out. Death ray? The principle is the same as the death ray. In fact, it was just a layer of fire element covering the eyes. Then, through the stimulation of magic power, the fire element burst out. Chen Zhao had always known the principle of the death ray. However, he hadn't mastered the power of the fire system in the past. So, even if he knew the principle, he couldn't use it. But after Chen Zhao opened his inner world had completely turned into the fire element. The fire chi and nirvana flame had completely fused together. So, all the requirements of the death ray were fulfilled. Not just the death ray. Chen Zhao had also mastered many fire spells in the past. Of course, most fire spells were meaningless to Chen Zhao. When the death ray shot toward Mr. Junfeng, he raised a golden arm to block it. Mr. Junfeng's golden arm was almost burned red by Chen Zhao's death ray. But it didn't do much damage to him. At least, Chen Zhao felt like his death ray was just tickling him. Mr. Junfeng wasn't just blocking Chen Zhao's death ray. His other arm was preparing a violent fire spell. His right hand blocked and absorbed Chen Zhao's death ray. Then, his left hand used the absorbed fire energy to release a fire spell. The next moment, a red beam of light whizzed out of Mr. Junfeng's palm. A terrifying heat wave landed on Chen Zhao's body. But the same thing happened. Chen Zhao absorbed the heat wave directly. Both Chen Zhao and Mr. Junfeng expended very little energy in this exchange. It was almost the same amount of energy that Chen Zhao released. After Mr. Junfeng absorbed and processed it, it was sent back to Chen Zhao. There was almost no energy consumption in the process. This meant that both Chen Zhao and Mr. Junfeng had a very high utilization rate of energy. Fire element? Mr. Junfeng stared at Chen Zhao with sparkling eyes. Since he knew Chen Zhao's element, it was easy. Mr. Junfeng had a very high resistance to fire. He was almost immune to it. Not only was his resistance high, but he could also absorb fire energy attacks. So, he felt that he was invincible in this battle. The pair of golden arms at the top of Mr. Junfeng's back rose high. The sky rumbled. A terrifying electric snake landed on Mr. Junfeng's right palm. Then, he aimed his left palm at Chen Zhao. Boom! The electric current was almost endless. Mr. Junfeng had only used a spell to guide the lightning. He didn't create the current himself. So, as long as the electric current in the clouds wasn't used up, the terrifying attack wouldn't stop. Zhang Tiany's expression changed when he saw Mr. Junfeng's lightning-attracting spell. This was Dragon Tiger Mountain's unique lightning technique. But Mr. Junfeng's was even more perfect. As a celestial master of Dragon Tiger Mountain, Zhang Tiany felt bad. There was no difference in the process of the lightning-attracting spell. The only difference was the duration of the spell. Mr. Junfeng was almost immune to lightning spells, so he didn't care how much electric current passed through his body. As long as he continuously absorbed the power of the lightning and released it, the attack wouldn't stop. He would keep releasing until the enemy was smashed into pieces. Zhang Tiany couldn't do that either. But Mr. Junfeng seemed to have missed something. The lightning-attracting spell landed on Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao didn't change his position at all. Chapter 27-26. The white light on Chen Zhao's body grew brighter and brighter. Chen Zhao also fully experienced what it felt like to be recharged for 5 minutes and used for 2 hours. An endless stream of electricity filled his body. Pouring it into the eye of lightning, his electricity was almost saturated. Chen Zhao suddenly raised his arm and aimed it at Tamamo no Mei. Boom! A terrifying electric arc shot through the sky and landed directly on Tamamo no Mei. Roar! Tamamo no Mei let out a terrifying roar and her huge body crashed to the ground. Mr. Jun immediately stopped the lightning summoning spell. He stared at Chen Zhao in shock. Chen Zhao could actually absorb the power of lightning just like him, and he had the same method as him. Had he also refined his body into a demonic body? But that was impossible. To refine a demonic body, one had to first turn their body into a corpse that wouldn't be restricted by lifespan. Not even the monster race, because even the monster race would die of old age. This was also why Mr. Junfeng had appeared 1,000 years ago as a 1,000-year-old corpse. To achieve the basic requirements, Mr. Junfeng had spent 1,000 years. Others thought that he had achieved great success when he was born 1,000 years ago. In reality, he had only achieved small success. The second time he had been sealed for 1,000 years was also part of his plan. It had taken him almost 2,000 years to create a demonic body that could be considered great success. But why was this human in front of him using power so similar to his? Humans couldn't even achieve 1/10 of a demonic body with decades of lifespan. Even if some people could break through the limit, it would still be very limited. 200 years was almost the limit. Just like Bifla, he also relied on the method of abandoning his physical body to live for more than 400 years. But the most important part of cultivating a demonic body was the body. It couldn't be changed at all. Changing a body was equivalent to training all over again. That was why Mr. Jun Fong had first made himself a corpse with thoughts and consciousness. Then he would start cultivating a demonic body. But now, a living person had the demonic body that he had always dreamed of. This caused him to have a mental breakdown. They had said that 100 years of starting and 1,000 years of foundation. Yet, this person had taken out a complete set of 3 years. No one would be happy about this. This made Mr. Jun Fong suspect that he had taken the wrong notebook back then. Or it could be said that later generations had edited a more complete version of his little notebook. Mr. Jun Fong had already listed Chen Zhao on his must-kill list. There was no need for 2 demonic bodies in this world. Mr. Jun Fong was wary of Chen Zhao because they had the same constitution. However, he believed that even if Chen Zhao cultivated a demonic body, Chen Zhao would not be able to be mentioned in the same breath as him. After all, he had spent 2,000 years gathering the strengths of hundreds of schools of thought. In his eyes, Chen Zhao was at most an accelerated version. It definitely didn't have his almost invincible characteristic. At most, it would be a simplified effect of a demonic body. He felt that Chen Zhao's skills could not compare to his. Moreover, he was not only familiar with the advantages of a demonic body, but he was also familiar with its weaknesses. Even a demonic body had its weaknesses. However, this weakness was not really a weakness. The weakness of the demon body was physical attacks. This could not be exempted. However, the demonic body itself could allow a cultivator's body to reach a terrifying level. It had even surpassed the limits of humans and demons, so this weakness was no longer a weakness. Mr. Jun Fong planned to charge forward and fight Chen Zhao. This was the best way to defeat the other demonic body. Seizing the opportunity when Chen Zhao released the power of lightning, Mr. Jun Fong flashed and appeared behind Chen Zhao. 4 golden fists landed heavily on Chen Zhao's back. Chen Zhao staggered. He looked back and touched the back of his head. Then he looked at Mr. Jun Fong. Chen Zhao had thought that there would be some special bonuses. There would be some side effects if he was hit. So, Chen Zhao did not rush to counterattack. Instead, he waited for his body to react. However, after a long time, there was no reaction. Chen Zhao was a bit confused. Wasn't the attack a bit weak? However, in Mr. Jun Fong's eyes, he thought that Chen Zhao had been stunned by his punch. This made him very proud. It was clearly the stupidest decision to let a demonic body of the same element fight him. He was more familiar with the demonic body than anyone else. So, he decided to continue and try to beat Chen Zhao to death in one go. However, someone moved faster than him. Tamamonome suddenly jumped out of the darkness. Her huge body pounced at Chen Zhao. The terrifying body turned into a ball of fire with terrifying heat waves, as if it could burn everything. Second level of the primordial regression technique, giant spirit transformation. Instantly, Chen Zhao turned into a golden giant. His aura increased 100 times. Mr. Jun Fong immediately flew back 100 meters. Fortunately, Chen Zhao's target was not him this time. Chen Zhao raised his fist and smashed it at Tamamo. Even though Chen Zhao was in giant spirit transformation, he was still 10,000 times smaller than Tamamonome. So the two still looked like eggs hitting a rock. Tamamonome's aura was overwhelming. When the two collided, Chen Zhao was about to break. But the next moment, Tamamonome was sent flying like a little puppy. The huge burning body drew an arc in the night sky. Those who did not know would think that it was a shooting star. Chen Zhao did not retreat at all, but the ground he was standing on cracked. Feng Ya and the others were dumbfounded. Feng Ya was also deeply doubtful of herself. Had she really defeated such a thing on Dragon Tiger Mountain? Mr. Jun Fong was even more shocked. Chen Zhao's golden body was similar to his, but not exactly the same. More importantly, what was up with Chen Zhao's terrifying strength? He had the strength to give Tamamanum a concussion with one punch. Although the demon body strengthened his body, even so, the strengthening was limited. Chen Zhao took a deep breath and looked at Mr. Jun Fong. Third level of the primordial regression technique. Everyone felt a suffocating pressure engulf them. Mr. Jun Fong's gaze turned serious. Now, he finally realized why Chen Zhao gave him the feeling of danger. It was a power that did not belong to the demon body at all. Not only did Chen Zhao not have the weakness of the demon body, but he also had a terrifying power that surpassed the demon body. There was also that specious golden body. They had the same or close to the same magic resistance. But Chen Zhao was even stronger than him. Mr. Jun Fong had to get serious, or rather, go all out. Mr. Jun Fong spread his arms and 12 beams of golden light appeared behind him. They were 1,200-meter-tall golden men standing behind Mr. Jun Fong. The moonlight shone on the 12 metal men, and the 12 metal men emitted a glass-like radiance. Jun Fong spread open his 6 arms behind him and absorbed the light from the crystal. Chapter 27:27. Chen Zhao, stop him! Zhang Tianyi yelled. Chen Zhao was clearly absorbing the power of the 12 metal men. The right thing to do was to stop him from absorbing. While Chen Zhao wasn't free, he had to deal a fatal blow. Chen Zhao opened his eyes. He sensed that when Mr. Jun Fong absorbed the crystal light from the 12 metal men, his body had formed a special connection with the 12 metal men. This connection couldn't be broken. At least, he couldn't right now. Chen Zhao didn't move. Instead, he continued to use his spiritual power to observe the connection between Mr. Jun Fong and the 12 metal men. Mr. Jun Fong and the 12 metal men seemed to have formed a special formation. Chen Zhao shook his head. He knew that his supernatural knowledge was very shallow. It was probably at the lowest level. If Zhang Tianyi and the others were like academicians of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, then Chen Zhao was like a primary school student. Currently, people who had come into contact with the spiritual world from a young age or cultivators raised by families were at least at the university level. From this, it could be seen how shallow Chen Zhao was in this area. But strangely, a primary school student like Chen Zhao had the ability to see the essence. His inner world had the ability to see the essence. Chen Zhao could even analyze the essence of the connection between the 12 metal men and Mr. Jun Fong. It was a very special resonance. Mr. Jun Fong wasn't just absorbing energy from the 12 metal men. Chen Zhao. Old Zhang, calm down. Taoist Wushu stopped Zhang Tianyi. That guy and the 12 metal men seem strange. It's the right decision for Chen Zhao not to attack. How? Zhang Tianyi frowned and looked at Chen Zhao. It didn't make sense that he couldn't see it, but Chen Zhao could. That's the 12 spirits of heaven formation, Taoist Qingping said with a serious expression. What formation is that? Zhang Tianyi wasn't familiar with formations. But looking at Qingping's expression, he also realized that this formation wasn't simple. The 12 capitals are also known as the spirits of the 12 tribes. Back when the Qin Emperor destroyed the 6 kingdoms to unify the world, he didn't just destroy the 6 kingdoms. He also destroyed the 12 kingdoms of the southern border and the northern border. Actually, they were just 12 aboriginal tribes. He slaughtered countless people of the 12 tribes and collected their blood. He then collected the gold of the 6 kingdoms and poured it into the 12 metal men, creating the 12 spirits of the capitals. The 12 spirits of the capitals were originally used to guard the north and south of the heavens. They were used to form the formation of heaven and earth to guard the fate of the nation. The Qin Emperor spent his entire life seeking longevity, and Su Fu was the leader of the medicine-concocting cultivators back then. It wouldn't be difficult to swindle the 12 metal men from the Qin Emperor, the immortal Wu Su said. Does this 12 spirits great formation have anything to do with Qin Emperor's original great formation of heaven and earth? Zhang Tianyi asked cautiously. If it was a formation used to guard the fate of a nation, then it would be very troublesome. Because he had participated in the current heaven and earth formation. Some small countries had even asked him for help to set up the heaven and earth formation. Therefore, Zhang Tianyi had some understanding of the heaven-earth formation. The core of the heaven-earth formation was not a fixed object. It could be a person or something else. For example, the strongman steel was one of the cores of the heaven-earth formation. However, Huaxia had a vast territory and abundant resources. It wasn't something that a strongman steel could guard. Therefore, there was only one strongman steel. There were 35 other Huaxia divine artifacts guarding the fate of a nation. They worked together to form the Heaven-Earth formation. However, there were also some small countries that relied on a single object, or on the person who had placed the country's fate on. The scale of the Heaven-Earth formation that they formed was naturally much smaller. Even so, the small-scale Heaven-Earth formation was almost impossible to break. This was because it required everyone to be united, heaven and earth to be low, and clouds to move in all directions. Unless there was a war between nations, 10,000 hearts against 10,000 hearts, 10,000 blades against 10,000 blades. Only then could they destroy the other party's Heaven-Earth formation and destroy the fate of a nation. Therefore, if the other party formed the Heaven-Earth formation, then there was no need to fight. Everyone would return to their own homes and find their own mothers. However, what was certain was that Mr. Jun Fong definitely didn't form the Heaven-Earth formation. He didn't have Huaxia's fate, and he wasn't Zi-Wei descending into the mortal world. He didn't have a sovereign personage foundation, so it was impossible for him to form the Heaven-Earth formation. Moreover, the Heaven-Earth formation of Huaxia was stable and couldn't be replaced. However, according to immortal Qing Ping, the 12 metal men used to form the Heaven-Earth formation. Therefore they had to be cautious. Back then, the Qin dynasty unified the 6 states, but it was destroyed in a day. This had something to do with the disappearance of the 12 metal men. The disappearance of the 12 metal men not only destroyed the Heaven-Earth formation and lost the fate of the nation, but also the fate of Huaxia, resulting in the 100-year disaster of war. Now that the 12 metal men have reappeared in the world, I'm afraid they still retain the fate of the Qin dynasty. The Heaven-Earth formation is created by Emperor Qin to control the underworld. It's the opposite of the formation of the nation's fate. The Heaven-Earth formation is the unity of the people and the unity of heaven and earth. The Heaven-Earth formation is based on the nether spirits and tens of thousands of resentful spirits. As long as he is within this formation, I'm afraid that Old Su is an undying existence. Immortal Wu Su and Zhang Tianyi both inhaled sharply. The Heaven-Earth formation was the opposite of the Heaven-Earth formation, but the principle was extremely similar. Even if it was a pirated version, even if it was a simplified version, that would make the situation they were facing extremely troublesome. This formation needs the nether spirits as the foundation, right? Nowadays, no one worships the Qin dynasty, not even the ghosts of the underworld. His Heaven-Earth formation probably can't unleash its full power, right? Zhang Tianyi raised his doubts. Immortal Qing Ping nodded, but the haze between his brows did not dissipate. That's indeed the case. Back then, when the Qin emperor passed away, he wanted to bury 1 million great Qin soldiers in armor to form the foundation of the 12 heavenly spirits formation. However, because the 12 metal colossi disappeared, he was unable to do so. However, the 12 metal colossi were forged from the blood of 1 million indigenous people and the gold of the 6 nations. Even though they are missing the souls of 1 million great Qin soldiers, they are still incredibly mighty. Everyone looked at Chen Zhao, their faces filled with worry. Who would have thought that this 1,000-year-old corpse was the former #1 warlock of the Qin dynasty, Su Fu? What was even more unexpected was that Su Fu had such a trump card. Not only had he cultivated an almost invincible demonic body, but he also had the 12 metal men and the Heaven-Earth formation. He also had the 12 metal men and the Heaven-Earth formation. Or rather, the 12 metal men and the Heaven-Earth formation were all part of his plan. In the past, the Qin dynasty had unified the world. Everything about the first emperor was all part of his plan. If that was really the case, then it was too terrifying. A person who controlled the world and the first emperor like chess pieces. He had even schemed until today, 2,000 years later. This kind of method was already an inhuman plan. Chapter 27-28. To put it bluntly, old monster Kunlai, who'd schemed for 1,000 years for the 1,000-year bloodline, was much weaker than Mr. Jun Fong in both ability and methods. Even a peerless genius like the first emperor had been toyed with by Mr. Jun Fong. Over the course of 1,000 years, while he was sealed, he had schemed against 2 successors of the 3 mountains who had been separated by 1,000 years. Even the time of his awakening had been carefully planned. At the end of the spiritual tide, the power of the spiritual world was greatly reduced. The number of experts could be counted on one hand. The next spiritual tide wasn't too far away either. It could be said that this was the best time to enter the world. Everyone's expression turned solemn. However, Chen Zhao's thoughts were much simpler. Mr. Junfeng glanced at Chen Zhao. The 12 gold men seemed to have fused with him. He felt like he could tear the world apart. Mr. Junfeng casually swung his arm and a ravine appeared in the ground before Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao tilted his body slightly and dodged the attack. Right now, Mr. Junfeng gave him a very bad feeling. The connection between him and the 12 gold men was very subtle. It was like an intricate electronic component, but the structure was very sturdy. Mr. Junfeng's aura and power had reached an incomprehensible level. Even old monster Kunlai's power couldn't compare to Mr. Junfeng's. This quantitative change had already caused a qualitative change. Every movement of his was filled with terrifying power. It was like a giant facing an ant. Even a meaningless movement could be fatal to the ant. Chen Zhao didn't want to be the ant. So, he had to change his current situation. Even if he was an ant, he had to be a strong ant. Zhang Tianyi looked at Chen Zhao and suddenly felt that his aura had changed. Zhang Tianyi's expression changed. He waved his hand and immediately protected Feng Ya and the others behind him. A red pattern started from Chen Zhao's body and started spreading outwards. Then it was a dense and complicated pattern that spread wider and wider. In the end, everything within 2,000 meters was completely covered by the red pattern. That's... Feng Ya looked at Zhang Tianyi in confusion, seeking his explanation. His little world, Zhang Tianyi said. But why did it become like this? Enlightened Master Wu Su and Enlightened Master Qing Ping were also confused. The three of them also had their own small worlds of different sizes. However, the composition of their small worlds were all the same. They were all filled with heaven and earth spiritual qi. However, Chen Zhao's small world was filled with scorching heat. Every heavenly pattern was filled with violent heat. How much flame qi was needed to fill the entire small world? Chen Zhao himself did not know how much flame qi he had absorbed during his seclusion. In the underground magma river of Mount Chogo, Chen Zhao absorbed billions of tons of magma. Then, he tempered the flame qi in the magma and absorbed the magma again. He repeated the process, absorbing and tempering. The power of the inner world was endless. The more powerful one's heart was, the more powerful one would be. Chen Zhao also wanted to know how much power his body could take. The heavenly rune, which was infused with flame energy, fused with his body. Chen Zhao's body was covered in red patterns. The densely packed heavenly patterns were like a tattoo he was born with. But this wasn't enough. Flame qi wasn't Chen Zhao's best power system. Chen Zhao needed to convert flame qi into the power he was most familiar with. Chen Zhao closed his eyes and sensed every corner of his body. Soon, he completed the development of a body. Chen Zhao turned his body into an engine, using flame qi as the energy source. He also increased the output. Chen Zhao included this state in the primordial regression technique. The fourth level, the fourth form. Normally, Chen Zhao would maintain the first form of the primordial regression technique. Then, when he encountered a stronger opponent, he would activate the second level, giant spirit form. Actually, the Jin form was like drinking water to Chen Zhao. However, the Jin form wasn't convenient for Chen Zhao's daily life, so he wouldn't maintain it. The third level of the primordial regression technique, 10,000 techniques return to 1, would only be used when facing an evenly matched opponent. But right now, even the third level, 10,000 techniques return to 1, wasn't enough to deal with Mr. Junfeng. Thus, Chen Zhao had to activate the fourth level on the spot. He'd tried this a few times before. It wasn't successful. However, the subtle connection between Mr. Junfeng and the 12 metal men gave Chen Zhao inspiration. The connection was subtle, but it wasn't too complicated for Chen Zhao. At least, with a scan of his inner world, he could sense the connection between Mr. Junfeng and the 12 metal men. Some of the connections could be used on an individual. More accurately, it could be used on Chen Zhao himself. Actually, in the formation formed by Mr. Junfeng and the 12 metal men, it wasn't suitable to be used on an individual. The transfer and operation of the energy wasn't something an individual could handle. The 12 metal men were the energy source, which transferred the energy to Mr. Junfeng. They seemed to be individuals, but they'd actually formed a highly precise energy supply relationship. This energy supply relationship couldn't be destroyed by a single person. Moreover, the energy released by this combination was shocking. An individual couldn't handle it. It was like a rocket engine. It couldn't be installed in a car. But Chen Zhao was different. This operation method didn't even reach his upper limit. It was even more advanced than Chen Zhao's current power system. It should be said that in the past, Chen Zhao's power output had always been rough. He didn't have much technique to speak of. Most of the time, Chen Zhao used strength to suppress others. But now, Chen Zhao found a more technical method. He could adjust the output of his power. That was the fourth form. Chen Zhao called it the tyrant form. Tamamonome retreated like her hair stood on end. Her beast instincts had already sensed the fatal danger from Chen Zhao. It was as if getting close would kill her. At the same time, Mr. Jun Fong looked at Chen Zhao. The distance between him and Chen Zhao seemed to distort. The next moment, Mr. Jun Fong appeared before Chen Zhao. Distance reduction. Zhang Tianyi raised an eyebrow. No, it's heaven and earth inversion. Taoist Wushu said with a serious expression. Mr. Jun Fong was so fast that even Chen Zhao couldn't react. Mr. Jun Fong's sword landed on Chen Zhao's neck in an instant. The blade was already halfway in. A smile appeared on Mr. Jun Fong's face. But the expressions of Zhang Tianyi and the others changed drastically. After Mr. Jun Fong activated the 12 Heavenly Spirits formation, the difference between the two was already so great. 9 Heavens Divine Emperor. Chapter 27-29. Just when everyone thought that Chen Zhao had lost, Chen Zhao suddenly threw a punch. Chen Zhao suddenly threw a punch. The Kusanagi sword in Mr. Jun's hand shattered instantly. Mr. Jun Fong was shocked. Chen Zhao swept out again and his fist landed on Mr. Jun Fong's chest. Whoosh! All the flesh and blood from Mr. Jun Fong's chest to his right shoulder flew out instantly. Mr. Jun Fong was also sent flying by the terrifying force. Chen Zhao touched his neck. It was very uncomfortable to have his neck cut open. However, his powerful vitality and the recovery ability of the Nirvana flame healed the wound almost instantly. Even Zhang Tianyi, perfected Wushu, and perfected Qingping were dumbfounded, let alone Feng Ye and the other young people. Half of his neck had been cut in, but he seemed to be fine. Tamaminome's hair stood on end. That was the Kusanagi sword. The Kusanagi sword's divinity was gone. But the Kusanagi was still a divine weapon. Together with Mr. Jun Fong's magic power, it didn't matter if he had divinity or not. Even so, even though Chen Zhao had been hit, it didn't achieve the desired effect. Jun Bangsun stood up again and glanced at his empty chest. The 12 gold colossi immediately changed the power they sent over. The crystal light suddenly turned red. Mr. Jun Fong's chest also started recovering. However, it was obvious that the new flesh on Jun Fong's chest was different from the original. Feng Ye and the other young people had never seen a battle of this level. Therefore, to them, this battle was more like a battle between immortals. Power of the border worshippers. Jun Fong shouted. The 12 gold colossi suddenly exploded with a golden light. Even more magic power entered Mr. Jun Fong's body. A gigantic, almost corporeal body appeared behind Mr. Jun. What spell is that? Is it a Dharma? That's the southern border's god-inviting spell. Are you kidding? Can a god invite something like that? Even the main body isn't that powerful, right? Taoists also had god-inviting spells, but normal third-rate gods would probably be pressed to the ground by human experts even if they came in person. Because of the complicated beliefs in southern border, there were all kinds of gods. Among the various gods, there were almost no mainstream gods. As for those so-called gods, some of them were actually transformed from gremlins. Compared to the real immortals, there was a huge difference in strength. However, the figure summoned by the god-inviting spell was no longer a third-rate god. Even if it was just a clone, it was already shocking enough. If this deity were to descend, how mighty would it be? Do those mountain spirits and wild monsters of the southern border really have such a powerful god? That's not some mountain spirit or wild monster. Border Zhu has another name in the Central Plains. Zhu Rong. Taoist Master Wu Su said, he's an ancient god. How is this possible? How could an ancient god invite a god? Ordinary methods naturally won't work, but this heavenly 12 spirits formation can. Mr. Jun Fong pointed at Chen Zhao. The giant god behind him also raised his fist. When it passed through the air, it created a scorching heat. The surrounding forests were also set ablaze by the high temperature. The fiend-godlike giant fist was like a falling meteor, as if it was going to shatter the mountains, rivers, and heavens. Before even touching it, Chen Zhao already felt an overwhelming pressure. The ground was torn apart, and the flames of the burning plants were suppressed to the point where they couldn't even rise, making it difficult for them to spread upwards. Chen Zhao faced the giant fist with all his strength. Starting from the fist that touched Chen Zhao's fist, red crystals started spreading upward. Then the whole body, followed by an ear-piercing sound of friction. Clang! Everyone heard a sound like a mirror breaking. Whoosh! The giant body disintegrated instantly. Red crystals rained down. The darkness of the night seemed to be shattered along with it. A strange crack was left in the sky. Chen Zhao didn't know how powerful that blow was. He only knew to turn the power to the maximum and then punch to his heart's content. After Chen Zhao threw that punch, he seemed to have been enlightened. He suddenly knew how to use his inner world. Chen Zhao stomped his foot and the ground suddenly poured into the ground. Then, huge red crystal pillars that were hundreds of meters tall rose from the ground. Everything within a radius of several kilometers was covered by the red crystal pillars. These pillars were products of Chen Zhao's inner world. Now, Chen Zhao could spread it out and materialize the red crystal pillars in his inner world. Zhang Tianyi, Spiritual Master Wushu, and Spiritual Master Qingping all gasped. This is truly breathtaking. Even Zhang Tianyi, who'd always thought that he was on par with Chen Zhao, had to admit it. Chen Zhao wasn't just one step ahead of him. This was also Chen Zhao's first time using this move. Within the range of the red crystal pillars, Chen Zhao felt that his power could increase infinitely. At least, he couldn't feel the limit at all right now. Chen Zhao raised his arm and controlled his power according to the instructions in his mind. A few red crystal pillars suddenly exploded. Red dust whizzed in the air, but it didn't dissipate completely. Instead, it turned into a body dozens of times larger than Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao was a bit surprised, but he could clearly feel that the body formed from his power had the same power as him. It wasn't his avatar, but a clone of his power. Seeing Chen Zhao's change, Mr. Jun's expression turned serious. At this moment, just like Tamamo no Mei, he also felt a fatal danger. But he had nowhere to go now. If he couldn't defeat Chen Zhao, he had nowhere to run. Of course, if he defeated Chen Zhao, he wouldn't have to run anymore. So, he had to use all his power to control the 12 metal colossi and have them give him all their power. Unless he had no other choice, Mr. Jun wouldn't even use the 12 metal colossi, let alone use them at full power. Using the 12 metal colossi would put immense pressure on his body, especially when he used them at full power. Even his demonic body couldn't bear the boundless power when he used them at full power. Even when he fought against the 3 sect leaders 1,000 years ago, he hadn't used the 12 metal colossi at full power. But this time, he felt that if he was lucky or held back, he might be crushed by Chen Zhao. This man gave him even more pressure than when the 3 sect leaders worked together 1,000 years ago. Finally, Mr. Jun felt that his body had reached a critical point. His body turned from gold to a dark gold. The 12 heavenly spirits formation was a reversed version of the formation of heaven and earth. It relied on the power of the nether spirits. The nether spirits' power and Mr. Jun's own power fused perfectly. It was even greatly enhanced. Mr. Jun's aura had increased by more than 10 times. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.